All right. That's great. Now I don't have to, I'm gonna have to ask you to go to the chat and sign in again, so that this registers in this course, but yay. There you go. And now we just need Kathy and Joel. So Jenny, you missed it, but I made an absolute teacher boo-boo, which is I mistakenly kicked someone out who was in the midst of talking to me, and I didn't mean to, but when a teacher kicks someone out, it literally is called kicking them out because I have like eliminated him from the class, and the only way he could get back in is if I restarted the class. So I had to close it down and open it up. It was a total mistake. So now I'm hoping that he got the message that he can get back in and he rejoins us. All right. So you joined us right when I was about to end the session, and so that's why I had to explain. It was so silly, but anyway. All right. So everyone, for better or for worse, please go back into the chat and sign yourself in again in the chat, because it's as if we were starting from zero again. And now I'm emailing Joel. There you go. All right, so I emailed him, and hopefully we'll hear Joel come back in. I'm feeling so bad, but the good news is you were all great about popping out and popping back in. So Jenny, you saw this already, so I'm going to show Catherine how to get the files. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my folder here to show you how to do this. So you do know how to get into Pipeline, right? Running there. Okay, give me a second here. All right. They were running the blender and I had to tell them to go do it somewhere else. All right. So I have not taught it this schedule on Fridays, and everyone's back from school and they're like, yeah, what's up? And I'm like, I'm still teaching. You guys can't turn on the blender. All right, here comes Joel. All right, cool. So that was Joel, that was so bad of me. I for the first time in a year and a half, I made a mistake, and instead of doing what I wanted to do, I ended up kicking you out. So I had to close the whole session. Everyone had to pump out and everyone connected back in so that we could let you in again. So I'm so sorry, Joel. There's nothing personal. Total mistake. So anyway, now you're in. So I'm actually in the, it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. I've been feeling bad for the last 10 minutes. Everyone here can attest to that. I've been horribly guilt-ridden that I kicked you out. So so anyway, I was in the midst of showing Catherine how to get the files, which won't apply to you because you're going to do VDI, and she's going to be having her own program. So just hang in for a minute while I show Catherine. So what I'm sharing right now is our pipeline account. Now, in your case, you, instead of having student non-credit, you say just the word student, right? So click on the word student, and then you have one more window, which is go to student resources.
Okay.
So once you hit student resources, then you're in this same place that I'm showing right now. Okay. And then on the far right, you see the word Google Drive. Are you there? Click on Google Drive. And here on the left side, you'll have to go to shared drives. Click on shared drives. All right. So once you're in shared drives, these are all the classes I teach. You should be seeing just Illustrator, or if any of you guys are in any other of my classes, you'll see whatever class you're in, but you should see just Illustrator. Double click on Illustrator and open that up. Okay, and so this folder called Illustrator class files. So Pilar, anyone who has the software at home, Johnny, remind me, are you on VDI or do you have your own software?
VDI.
You're on VDI. Okay, so basically only Catherine and Pilar right now need to download these files. So you need to, don't double click this folder, just right click on it and say download. Now, Pilar, I know you've taken some others of these classes, so I put different files here. Some are repeat, some are different. So if you have an older folder of Illustrator or something like that, class files, get rid of them because this is a different set. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Catherine, are you on a PC or on a Mac?
I'm on a Mac.
Okay, so then that's easier because PCs, you have to extract the files, whatever. The Mac kind of unzips the files. So when you see the little downloading thing zipping done and it downloads, then go to your downloads folder and just double click on the zip thing and that extracts them. Okay.
Okay. So
and then
do I need to do this? Do I need to do this after I buy the cloud, or is it?
No,
right
these
now?
are just these are just files that if you do it now, you have them, but you won't be able to use them until you buy the software. But since you might have it in the next few days before Friday, these are the files to access. But right now, you're going to still have to do it through today for VDI, just like Joel and Johnny and Jenny. We're all going to be. Jenny, you're on VDI, aren't you? Or trying to remember if Jenny's on VDI or on the applications. So yes, you're on VDI. Okay, so just about everyone except for Pilar right now is going to be on VDI. And then the new people, the people who are going to show up soon, when in half an hour, well, in 20 minutes by now, there's going to mix a VDI.
I think it's because something else wasn't pressed.
Oh,
Cool.
cool.
Let me see.
You have sound now. I'm here. I'm hearing you.
Okay. Because I can hear.
Oh. All right. I can hear you now. Actually, I can't hear you now. Now you're muted. If you were talking, you're muted now again. And all right. All right. So so that is for when you for when you have your own files. She's muted and I'm muting. Okay, so that's it for whoever's going to be doing their own software. Now, for the rest of you guys who are going to be doing VDI, actually, just as a reminder, I'm going to share the ideal way to access VDI is by using either Chrome or Firefox. Don't use Safari or Windows Explorer or Edge. Those don't work well with VDI. So open either Google or Firefox. And what we're going to go to is to vmview.sbcc.edu. I'm going to post that in the chat as well. So if you go to your chat, you can also just click on the link that I just put in the chat. Otherwise, ignore these helpful hints. None of these are going to take you to the right place. Just write vmview.sbcc, the whole thing, and then hit return. And that should take you to this page. Okay, so Joel, now that I'm doing VDI and I'm attending to you because I finished with the rest. Yeah, I was trying to add your last name because you took the wall part out of it and put your name, and the click for me to change your name is right next to the button to kick you out as if you were being an unruly student, and I kicked you out, and that's what happened. So that was the first time I've done it in a year and a half of teaching on Zoom. So I apologize. Can you tell me where you're at? Are you here at the VMview? Are you working on connecting?
No, I'm already connected.
You're already in VMview, so you know how to do VDI. Okay, great. So then click, oh, I did it too quickly. Click on the right side, by the way, on this button here. We're gonna do username and then passcode, and I'm kind of doing this relatively slowly because for two people here, this is the first time they've, well, it's the second time you've done it because you did it the other day for digital design techniques, and this is your second time. But after this, you should be connected before class starts, so that when class starts, we can all just start working and have everything going. Because this step, the one that I'm about to do right now, takes a little bit of time. So I'm going to hit the student desktop, and this portion kind of sits there and it takes a while. So we're going to have this done. But since I was just on VDI, like for the last class a little while ago, it kind of might consider it the same session. It might let me in a bit sooner. I'm not sure. I think I've been disconnected long enough that it's not. Oh, Joel, I can hear you. Are you okay? That sounded like something fell. I'm going to mute you. Okay. So this is the step that takes quite a bit. And then after that, we're in. And we have, let me see. I'm looking at the roster, guys. Give me a sec. Even with all of that mishap, we are still way ahead of the game because I didn't ask everyone else to come in until 2:30. That said, it's the smallest class this summer. I was saying that earlier, so I'm so glad that you guys are here. So I'm expecting like 3 more people. But when I don't hear from people back, they might even not join. So it might be that we're just a small class and we're lucky that they're going to let it run. All right. Okay. So this is a class. So now most of the rest of you heard this before. I'm basically talking mainly to Catherine. This is a class that's part of a certificate. So you're welcome to teach it, to take it and just learn Illustrator if that's all you want to learn. But if you're interested in getting the certificate, then there's, and I'm going to move this down a little bit here. There's, actually I need to get rid of these two. I've had these here for a while. And they were a sample for someone else and I really don't need it. So I'm going to delete them. Okay, you guys only have Recycle Bin and Google Chrome here. I have all this other stuff and I was cleaning up because it's unnecessary. But once we're in here, what we need to do is we need to sign into the Google Drive. So if you've already been inside of VDI and you didn't sign out, so maybe Jenny or Johnny or Pilar, when you were in here, no, Pilar, you're not on, but when you're in here last, if you didn't sign out of your Google Drive, then you might not be seeing this window. So what you need to do is you need to sign out and sign in to see this window. But if you're seeing this window already, so Catherine, is this one popping up for you?
Yeah.
Then just sign in with browser and use your pipeline username. Okay. So, and I'm going to do that because I need to sign in first to then show Jenny and Joel how to sign out and sign in again. Okay. So first of all, here you're going to put in your pipeline entire thing now, not just username, but actually sbcc.edu, like the entire email goes into this one. And some people make the mistake of putting their personal emails here, and then it's a disaster because your whole VDI is connected to your personal stuff. So for anyone back there who is signing in, please make sure to put your pipeline one. And then here you scroll down all the way down and say allow.
Okay.
Okay. Once you've done that, you can close this window. We don't need that window anymore. And then a couple other windows are going to pop up that you don't need anymore, and you can close them all up. Once you're connected, it'll pop up this one, which you don't need. You'll say, okay. And it'll pop this one, which you don't need, and you'll cross it out. So any window that pops open right now, you can get rid of them all, including this one. So there's like 3 windows will pop up and just get rid of them all. All right. Now, for people who were already signed, okay, so Joel, did you get the sign-in windows for you as well? Or were you already signed into Google Drive?
Already signed in.
Okay, because if you were already signed in before you connected to VDI from like a different session from before, which is what would be happening right now to Jenny and Joel, to John and Jenny. Many times when you connect to VDI and your Google Drive is connected from a previous connection, then the files show up as corrupted and they don't work. So every time we connect to VDI, we need to, if we forgot to disconnect before we left, then we need to disconnect and reconnect. So like Catherine just signed in, so she doesn't need to disconnect, but the rest of you who were connected from before, the cleanest way is to disconnect. And how you do that is you go very far down right, where you see the username and all that. You see this tiny little up arrow. Click on that up arrow, and that'll push all these little icons up here. And one of them is the Google Drive icon. Are you seeing that? Johnny and Jenny mainly at this point, and Joel, if you were connected before this connection. Okay, so then go up here and click on that, and then go to the gears, preferences. We don't quit, we just go to the preferences and we disconnect the account. Just disconnect the account. It'll say, oh, well, all these will be removed from your computer. And you're like, yeah, it's okay. I know that. Say, okay. Normally at this point, you would do this at the end of our session. And then you would just kind of take off and disconnect. Then when you come in and next morning, whatever, you get this one again. Now, this time, if it disconnects, if we connected and we hadn't disconnected, then we need to disconnect and connect again. Does that make sense? And that gives us a fresh access to the files so that they're not corrupted. So when you see this little thing again, then you just do the whole thing, sign in again. So did that pop up already for you, Jenny or Johnny or Joel? Sometimes it takes a while
Working
for
on
this
it.
one to pop up. Because if this one doesn't, especially if you already have an application open, this window might take a little while to pop up because it's trying to figure out to disconnect Google Drive from Bridge and from all the other stuff. So once
Diana,
it's there, yes, Jenny?
I disconnected it and then it's not popping up on, you know how you put up the little arrow? It's
Mhm.
not popping up for me.
Did you say quit instead of disconnect?
Yes, I said quit.
It's okay. So then in your case, what you need to do is actually go find it again. So go down here on the bottom left. There's a little search bar. Click on the
Magnifying glass.
thank you. People, so funny, Catherine, you said that. People who've taken my classes for a while, they know that they need to prompt me with that word because English is my second language. I haven't really done my formal introduction. I'm from Argentina, and I always have to want to say the word lupa or loop, which is what we call it. And I can never, that word never comes out until someone prompts me with the word magnifying glass. So thank you. Find the magnifying glass for the search and write Google Drive. And then up here at the very top, you'll see Google Drive app and click on that. And that should pop up the application because you quit it. So you need to open it again. All right. Tell me if that's working.
It's not working. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead. Let me stop my share and let's see. The whole disconnecting of the Google Drive on and off sometimes is a bit complicated. I've been wearing these headsets since this morning and it's supposed to be a big, it's hurting me. I used to have the big ear ones, but the cable is broken. All right, so.
So I
All
go here and search for it.
Yeah, right, Google Drive. No, not that one.
Oh,
Oh, it says it's already running. So maybe you hadn't disconnected or you did. When you went to the little arrow, try to go to the little arrow because it might be that you didn't disconnect yet.
it's
Click on
not
that arrow.
there. See, it's not there.
Yeah, it's there. You must be having Zoom hiding it. So go further,
Oh.
like another inch to the right. Move your mouse to the right. You must have like the Zoom windows in front of them. So you can, what you can do is you can minimize the Zoom windows, go up to the top and click the little line so that we don't need to see all of our faces and that kind of pushes over. And there you go. There you found
This
it.
one?
Yeah. Yeah, the arrow, not that one, right? A little bit to the left. Yeah, the arrow. You know what? Click again because you need to, yeah, there we go. So
Oh,
that was your icon. So so now is where you would have to disconnect from there. Yeah, click there. Preferences. Disconnect account up at the top, like top right. Yeah. Okay. And then disconnect. Cool. You can close this window. Good. And now it pops in and asks you to sign in again. All right. So now you're fine. And now put in the entire pipeline email address. So this is just because last session we ended up without disconnecting. Okay.
okay.
Plan B, you do it at the beginning. You just go disconnect, connect, and then it works just as well. You just need to
Okay.
remember to do it before we start working on the files. Otherwise they come up kind of half they're corrupted and weird. All right. So now that we have everyone connected, I have another minute. Let me share my screen. All right, so all these windows, when you connect that open up, you can get rid of them. So here's the thing. We're going to be learning how to use Illustrator, but let people in. But parallel to Illustrator, I'm going to be teaching how to use Bridge, or there's so much more to Bridge than what we'll really get to do, but we'll be using Bridge as a way to access our files and as our way to put all of our materials in there. So to open the applications, hi, Bonnie. There's only one. By the way, are you a Mac or a PC person, Catherine, in regular
I'm a
life?
Mac
Okay,
person.
so you might have noticed that you're in here as a PC, okay? So once you're inside of the Adobe Creative Cloud, everything is the same, okay? There's just only one or two keys that are different, that are keys on your keyboard, but everything is gonna be the same. So the fact that you're on a Windows shouldn't be an issue
Okay.
for access for the cloud, except
Okay.
for how we open a program. So down here on the bottom left, where you see this little icon with the four little windows, click on that and let's all open Bridge. So hi, Anne. People are beginning to pop in. We had quick access to all the materials because we really only have a couple of people who are new right now to the system. So that's exciting because in the Photoshop class that we just taught, we had a lot of new people and that took us quite a while. So that said, it's nice to have a lot of new people because it's bigger classes and this is going to be a very small class, but hey, it's all right. We get what we can. All right. So does everyone have Bridge open?
Yeah.
All right. So over here on the left side of Bridge, oh, by the way, when Bridge opens up first, if it's the first time you've opened it, it's probably kind of like floating in the page like this. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to expand it. I'm noticing that everyone who is arriving is signing in, but I spent so much time apologizing to Joel that I didn't remind him to sign in. So Joel, can you go to your chat and just write, hi, I am finally here after you let me in. You don't need to write all that. You can just say, hi, I'm here. Because I need people to sign into the chat for attendance purposes. I'm making a bit too much of a big deal of the fact that I kicked you out. I'm feeling so guilty that I'm mentioning it again and again and again. And anyone who hears a recording will not know what happened. So I'm going to stop mentioning it. Up here at the top, we're going to expand with this middle button. It's equivalent. If you guys are on a Mac, you would want to go on the left side and click the green button. But here on the PC, it's this middle one, and we'll expand to fill our screen. Okay. And then down at the left side, we're going to click on this PC. Now, guys who just joined us, you know, this is for people who are on VDI, and I'm pretty sure both Bonnie and Ann, you have your own software, right? Yeah, so you don't need to do this part. So on you go to this PC, and then your third choice in should be the Google Drive. All right, so go ahead and double click on the Google Drive, because we're going to access our files through the shared drives. Double click on shared drives. And if you're getting a little bit lost up here, I have the path, this PC, Google Drive, shared drives. And then we're going to find the Illustrator folder, which you probably have only one. I have a bunch. Again, it's all the ones I teach. Double click on Illustrator. So we're doing the same thing we did before through that we did it through the pipeline, but we're just doing it inside of VDI through Bridge. And then these are all the handouts. These handouts, it's easier to access. You already downloaded them? No, you didn't. You only downloaded class files.
Yeah.
Handouts are easier to access through the browser on pipeline normally. Usually here, I just go straight to the class files. But if you at all want to read any of these from here, this is really good. One that I want to point out, two that I want to point out. One of them is my Illustrator shortcuts. When there's Illustrator shortcuts, which is kind of like a ton of shortcuts, which at some point it's good to learn. But the one that I want you guys to have to learn, at least for the duration of this class, is the one that's called My Illustrator Shortcuts. If you double click on that, and I haven't shown this in the other classes yet, you guys, those of you who came to my classes in person, I used to hand this out as one of the few sheets that I actually printed out. Because when it's trying to open it in Acrobat. So when you double click on it here, I thought it was going to open in Bridge, but it kicked open down here another program. It opened Acrobat to open it up. So this is a good one to print out, to have as a reminder next to you. I'll be reminding you all the time of the shortcuts. I'll be saying, Command, Control, Zoom, this or that. So you'll end up learning if you just do them when I call them out. But just so you know, this is the only difference in all of these programs, is that on a Mac, you have a command key. On a PC, the command key does not exist. So on the PC, you hold down the control key. So they're both the keys start with C, so for the PC, it's easy. They only have the control. But for the Mac, you have both. So avoid the command. When you're on VDI, you are using a Windows machine. So even though you have a Mac, anyone out there who has a Mac who's on VDI still has to hold down the control key when you're on VDI. You're on a Windows machine, and the control key is what works, okay? Does that make sense? Johnny, are you on a Mac or on a PC? I think you're on a PC,
I'm on
right?
VDI.
Yeah, but
on
VDI
PC.
on a PC base. Okay, and Jenny, how about you? I think you're a PC. I'm trying to remember. I only met you guys this week, so I'm still not so aware. But I think so. Jenny usually answers on the chat. All right. So now I'm gonna.
I'm on a PC.
You're on a PC too. Okay. So Catherine, you're the only ones who's gonna have, like me, because I'm also on a Mac. This thing where you're on a Mac, but you're really on a PC when you're on VDI. Okay. So back to Bridge. The folder that we need to open is Illustrator class files. Scroll all the way to the top. Double click on Illustrator class files. And take a little bit of time to open up, but here they are popping in. All right. So they're taking their time. There they go. Now they're all popping in. Okay, so now these are the files that you downloaded, because when you have your own software. So Anne and Bonnie, the thing that you want to, let me just out of the Adobe stuff. If you have taken, I believe, I know Bonnie was in the Illustrator class before, and you guys might have files. Some of these overlap from files that you had before, but I put in like 10 new files. So if you go to the folder and download them onto your computer, go ahead and erase the ones you have so that you don't then wonder which ones they were, if they were the new ones or the old ones. Just erase the folder cap or replace. When you download these, it'll say you already have the Illustrator class files, and just replace with the new ones, because there's half of about 70% or 50% new files. Okay. All right. Okay. And Leland, who's now joining us, will have that same thing that he'll need to be told to do. All right. So is everyone here? Does everyone have Bridge open and you got to the class files?
Mhm.
Are we all okay? So here's the thing. I'm going to get to a place where I'm going to need people to start responding in a way that I can see, because I don't want to have you all disconnect or turn on your cameras to give me a thumbs up. So I want you to be able to use the emoticons, the little reactions, so that when I say, okay, are you here or not, you'll either say yes or no. But when I'm sharing my screen, sometimes it's harder to find them. So go ahead and see if you can find, as a test, the little what they called they call them emojis here. They call them
Emoji.
Are they calling them emojis?
It's called
They're
reaction.
saying reactions. That's what they call them here. Go click on the reactions so that you can give me a reaction. Everyone, if you have Bridge open to the new Illustrator folder files. So Leland, hi, I was just saying that there's new files. There's like 8 or 10 new files in the folder of Illustrator. So go ahead and replace your old files that you've downloaded in the past with these ones, because there's a few new samples. Some of them are the same that I just haven't used yet with you guys, so I'll be using them, but there's others that are new. Okay.
Is it the same shared folder, Deanna?
It's the same shared folder. So when
Okay.
you download it, it'll ask you to replace and say yes, and it'll just come in with new stuff. All
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, so I kind of have an idea, all the people that I already know, what their experience is. I already talked with Catherine and Johnny and Jenny, because you guys are in my digital design techniques class. So I think I know. Joel, did you ever take Illustrator with me? I don't think you did. I think you took other classes, but I don't think you took Illustrator. Did you?
No,
No. Okay. All right. Are you new to Illustrator though, or have you had experience with it before on your own?
not my own.
Okay. All right. So it's officially 2:34, which means that everyone who's going to join us has joined us, or they're going to be a little bit late. There's 3 people who are not joining us. So it's going to be a small class, as you can see. They're going to be here next week. And then I know that Bonnie has to pop out soon. So let's enjoy the fact that there's not going to be too many of us, and ask all your questions that you need. Many of you have done some of my other classes, so you know how it works. But for a few of you guys, I'm relatively new. And here's the most important thing. I want you to know that which I am teaching. So if I am saying something and it's gone over your head, or you misheard, or you were distracted, if you were distracted, try not to get too distracted. But still, ask me so that I can help you catch up. Like, I don't want to find 10 minutes after I moved on from something that I ask you and you go, well, I just kind of got lost. And I say, well, where did you get lost? And where you got lost is something I did 10 minutes ago. If you get lost, tell me immediately. Say, hey, Deanna, stop, hold on. Can you explain this again? Wait, what did you say? What was the button I'm supposed to click? Like, ask me immediately. Let's move forward together. Okay. But if you wait and see, then it takes me much longer to go backwards and help you catch up than it would have been in the moment to stop you when you begin to not know what I'm talking about. So the moment you feel, what's she talking about? after you look around a few times, if you're in somewhere totally different and it's just really not, obviously what you're seeing or what I'm showing is very different, ask me immediately, because I can instantly give you, straighten you out again and get you back on track. And it helps the whole class to move forward faster than to have to kind of work 10 more steps. Another thing that I do, other than requesting that, is I can't walk behind you. In the past, I would walk behind you on the computers and I'd know if you were, I'd kind of approach your computer and I was talking to someone else, but I'd kind of help you catch up and I could keep track. But here, I can't do that. I'm not walking behind you. So you have to tell me, okay? I need to trust you to tell me if you need me to help you catch up. And I know most of you guys are good at that. But I'm saying most because I'm not going to name names, but there's one or two of you guys who are not good at that. And so I'm going to trust that you'll do it this time. And you know who I'm talking to. Don't just say, oh, I'll check it out later on the recording, which is fine. That's what the recordings are there for. I'm suddenly I had a moment of panic with all of the disconnecting and connecting. I was wondering if, yes, I am recording this one too. I thought maybe I had not recorded. I was not recording. So these classes are recorded. So you will be able to watch them and catch up. But use that as a last resort or for just renewing your knowledge, but not to just, I got lost, so I'm just going to sit back. And because you have me here to ask me questions, I'm much better than a recording, trust me. I have knowledge to impart if you have a question, which in recording you can't ask a question to. So the next thing I want to make sure, and I'm talking at you with my screen shared, which is kind of weird because when I talk, I usually try not to have my screen shared. But anyway, right now, this is my last little talking bit, which is if you're up to something that you're doing, I know from having talked with Pilar, from having talked with people who I know what they're up to. Then whenever I come to an example that I know is appropriate, for example, for Pilar, I'll tell her, oh, because like when you do this, I know she's doing websites. I know she's doing newsletters. I know what she's up to. I can give her some tips based on the fact that I know a need she might have. So if you have something you're up to that you're want to use this program for, please tell me. Maybe you're putting together a book. Maybe you're trying to do this, or you're trying to do that, or you're creating logos, or who knows what you're up to in life. So share that with me. And then I can, as much as possible, it is when you're teaching a whole group of people, I can point my information more towards you in particular. So Leland, for example, is making apps, and he has been designing them for quite a while now. And he started the classes with me knowing nothing about how to use all these programs. And now he's out there professionally being a UX designer, right? Is that what you're doing, Leland? Other than like, is it UX or is it what part of the?
Yeah, I'm doing UX design, and I'm also being a PM, like a product manager for a UX design team oriented stuff. So yeah.
Very cool. And it takes a while to get in and to become, a professional. And what he's doing a lot is he's participating in contests. He's constantly sending me little apps that he and a group and a team is designing, and they're presenting them and so it's just practice. This makes you there, right? And he started just like you guys. Like, what is Illustrator, right? So that's how it works. So a lot of people take these classes again because there's always something else to learn beyond what you already know that you know. And so here we go. Let me check in. I don't think Justine has these files. I was about to launch into Illustrator. Let me wait.
Hey, hi, Deanna.
Hi, Justine. How are you?
How are you?
So nice to see you. So I know that you started taking Illustrator last time and then had some conflict and had to stop. So you've joined us again, but the files are different. Okay. So are you going to be on VDI or did you buy the programs?
No, I'll still be on VDI.
Okay, so that's fine then, because you have the files here, so that's not an issue. Okay. So can you, do you remember how to access VDI?
I'm gonna need to go in there and refresh my memory, that's for sure.
Okay, so here's the thing. We're kind of there already and ready to
Yeah,
get started.
That's fine. I
So
just want you to slow down for me. I'm sorry I came in a little late.
no, that's fine. I'll just make it a really quick reminder over here. I'll put in the chat. You have
Okay.
to go to the website is and I put it up. If you kind of go to the chat and scroll, go ahead and say hello in the chat, by the way, as your attendance, and then
Oh,
scroll up like 5 or 6 comments. You'll see over there in HTTP VM view.
no,
Um,
when you come in, you don't
Oh,
see chats from before you arrived. So it would
you're
have to
so
go
right. You're so
again
right.
from
So
the-
I'm pasting it in again. I pasted it in again.
Okay,
There you
so-
go. You're right. I forget that the chat starts from the moment
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
sign in. Good. So click on that link and then remember to sign in with the pipeline username.
Right.
And then once you're in, which will take a little bit of time, then let me know and then I'll remind you how to get to the files.
Sorry, remind me when you go to that, is it the HTML access or is it the Horizon?
HTML, the one on the right.
HTML on the right. Okay.
HTML.
I think
Then
I
hit
have
student
it.
then hit student desktop, and then that's the one that's going to take a while. So once finally Windows pops in, give me a call and I'll help you catch up again. Okay. All right. So this is the good news that when we don't have that many students, I'm able to help people a bit more one-on-one. So just let me know when you're ready for me. All right.
Okay.
So guys, why do we use Bridge? Bridge is a program that gives us basically right now it's just functioning as another browser, right? Meaning as a browser, as the Finder, or as on a Mac as the Finder, or as a Windows Explorer, where you just see your files. But it's more than that. Not only do you see them in a way that's visually much more attractive, right, than on a little Finder, but you actually get a lot of information about the materials and what you're going to be doing. So when I'm teaching the digital design techniques class, one of the things that I try to do is show people how they can combine the use of Photoshop with Illustrator, with InDesign, with whatever other programs they're using to create a final piece. So Illustrator is one of those places where if you use only Illustrator, you can also create a lot on its own. And the differences between these programs is that Photoshop is going to work with photographs, and the material photographs are made of, so to say, the material, because it's not really material, but it's pixels, it's raster based images. So it's files that have millions of colors that come from reality somewhere that you've photographed and brought in, or you've scanned an oil painting. So even though it was an oil painting, it's a photograph of the oil painting. 90% of the times. There's also the truth that in Photoshop, you could go and use a brush to create your own textures, right? But it'll still be created as pixels. Now, those pixels are resolution dependent. Not going to talk too much about resolution in this class. I address it deeply in digital design techniques and in Photoshop where it matters. The whole point is that it doesn't matter in here, because in Illustrator, the whole conversation of resolution is not important, because in Illustrator, everything we create is a vector image. Vector image, what does that mean? Vector images are files that are going to be always exactly as you made them, no matter what size you made them in, because really they're just mathematical algorithms or conversations within the computer, where you draw a line and the computer draws a line, and then you go, I want to make that line much bigger. So the computer recalculates and makes it much bigger. Then you go, I want to make it huge, and the computer recalculates and makes it huge. And it's always a perfect line, exactly like you made it. There's no reality to it. You are creating it on the computer. Versus a photograph that Photoshop with pixels is working on depends on, if you took that picture 10 years ago, it has less pixels and a bad lens than the camera that now takes more pixels. And so there's a different material it's working with, and Photoshop is more limited in what you can do. You're basing yourself on something that has a limitation in size. In Illustrator, you can design a little logo this tiny, and next thing you know, that logo has to be used to plaster the side of a delivery truck and you just stretch it to the size of the delivery truck and it looks just as good and just as sharp because it's just the computer recalculating information. And it does that very well. And with no loss of quality or anything like that. Okay, so there's two very different mediums. Also, as I already said, there's nothing that exists in Illustrator until you create it, or unless you borrow it and import it from something else. So it's stuff that you make. So logos is the perfect example of the kind of thing that we would do in Illustrator. It would be in Photoshop this morning, I had a guy who's a book illustrator and he wanted to know how to digitize his images. And I forgot to tell him to come to this class. But then, if you're accustomed to drawing your art, one thing you can do is bring that art into Illustrator, and Illustrator traces that art and turns it into vector files. And then you can continue working with that as a digital image. Okay, so so it could be art that you created on a napkin or on a beautiful piece of paper, but now that you digitize it, now you keep working on it as a different part way of working with your art. Okay, so that's the thing about Illustrator. Usually you will be creating things from scratch. That said, we do have files here that we're going to start working with, but they're less important than in Photoshop, because in Photoshop, you always start with an existing file because that's what Photoshop is for. Versus here, these are some sample files, but a lot of our work will be based on blank files where we're just creating things from scratch. And that's the goal, to have you guys be able to know how to use the tools to create things from scratch. Okay, so we're going to start today with an empty file and this little robot file. So just to make sure that Illustrator kicks open and that we know how to open files and have two different beginning files. If everyone see this one called Drawing Shapes, Robots, AI, go ahead and double click it. And since Illustrator or Bridge knows that the AI is a shortcut for Adobe Illustrator, it's not the shortcut, the extension for Adobe Illustrator. Once you double click an AI file, it kicks Illustrator into opening up. So you could have opened it already, but Bridge knows and opens it in Illustrator. Now while it's opening, I'm gonna click here on Bridge again, because I want to show you that there's other files in here. I have a JPEG, I have a TIFF down here, I have another JPEG over here. If I were to double click any of these JPEGs, Bridge knows that to work a JPEG is a pixel-based image. A pixel-based image is a photograph. A photograph needs to be worked in Photoshop. So if I double click a JPEG, Photoshop will open up. And then you can modify that image in Photoshop. But you can then place it in Illustrator as an already modified photo to work on having it be the background of your poster or the photo in a brochure. So you can work with Photoshop files and JPEG files inside of Illustrator, but you can't modify them and make them darker, lighter, all that kind of stuff. You just do all the modifications of the photo in Photoshop. And then inside of Illustrator, you place it as a welcome guest, but you work around it with vector files. But to work with the pixels, you have to go back to Photoshop. Okay, does that make sense? So there's a link there between them. But it's not, so that's why you would want to, if you want to bring this photo, this book photo, that's a JPEG, into Illustrator, you would have to do it through Illustrator. All right, so by now, is Illustrator open up for everyone? Do you all see this little robot file hanging out there?
Yes.
Tiana, I'm getting close.
That's fine, good. That's fine, yeah, the initial connection
Well, it
takes
said
a bit.
it said I couldn't access it the first few times I tried, and then I tried again and it went through. So I don't know.
Okay,
Working on it.
all right, so If you need to, if it says it again, then stop for a minute and show me and share your screen so that I can see if I
Yeah,
can
now
figure
it's
out
went
what's
through.
happening.
It's just the first few times it said authorization denied, but then I tried it again and now it's loading.
I know.
Through.
Sometimes, by the way, VDI tends to have moments where it's kind of tricky and iffy. And if it gets that way, plan B, try with a different browser. So like maybe if you were trying with Google Chrome, then try with Firefox. Or if it's not working with Firefox, try with Google. And it's the other day, someone couldn't connect with Firefox and they had to use Google. And I was at the same time with Firefox. And then at the same moment, I tried with Google and the other one could do Firefox and I couldn't do Google. So it's just, it's your computer decides when it wants to connect or not connect based on some of the VDI gods that are active in the moment or not active. VDI is a little bit, it's one of those things in technology where supposedly technology is not left up to chance, but yeah, sometimes you just need to shop around. And if Chrome works one day for you, the next day it might be Firefox that works for you. And worst case scenario, it might be something else. So anyway, hi, Molly. Molly just joined us. I am launching into Illustrator to begin to work with Illustrator, Molly, but remind me, because I think you were in my Photoshop class, or was it Illustrator last session and you also had to interrupt and now you're back? Was it Illustrator?
It was Photoshop.
It was Photoshop. Okay, so you haven't done Illustrator yet, right?
Nope.
Okay. That said, you do know how to get into VDI, right? Because you've used that also for the credit classes, yeah?
I have my own Illustrator.
Oh, you have your own Illustrator. Okay, that's good. Be with you in a second, Justine. Let me just check in with Molly to make sure that I get her in. So if you have your own Illustrator, what I want you to do while I'm talking with everyone else is you need to go get the files really quickly.
Okay.
Why is everyone showing up so late? I did say class starts at 1:30. I did say 2:30, right? Yeah, because someone else just joined up. I'm just trying to make sure. First day when I have to get everyone to get the files, it's important that everyone have them to start with, but that's okay. So Molly,
Yes.
let me get you, Justine, hold on a second. Let me make sure Molly can start downloading her file so she can start working. And then I'll help you. So Joyce, hi. Do you have, I'm talking to Joyce now. Can you remind me if you have the applications or if you're doing VDI? Oh, she's connecting to audio. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna share my screen, Molly. You do know how to get into your pipeline account, do you, or not? Kind of?
Yes,
maybe?
I do. I do.
All right, so let's go do that. Go to SPCC or pipeline to SPCC, get into pipeline, and then everyone bear with me for a second while I tell her how to get to the stuff. And when you're at this window, let me know. Meanwhile, Joyce, are you, remind me if you are VDI or PC? I know that your sound is off. Can you write in the chat?
Sorry, VDI.
VDI. Okay, so then you're fine with files. So then I just need to get Molly. So Molly, are you here in the
Pipeline.
pipeline? You would be actually here. I needed to sign in again, sorry. Are you in this, did you land in this pipeline window?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm there. Yes.
You're here? Okay,
Yes.
so then up here, you'll see the word student. You wouldn't see student on credit because you're a credit student too, so you'd see student, click on student, and then click on the next button, which is student resources. I don't have it here, but you have a student resources button, okay?
Yeah.
And then on the right side over here, you see Google Drive.
Yeah.
Okay, click on Google Drive. Okay, and now here on the left side of the screen, go ahead and look for the shared drives icon.
Okay.
Click on shared drives. Okay, so now here you have whatever folders you have based on all the classes you've taken from me. Go find the one that says Illustrator shared drive and double click on that one.
Oh, okay.
All right. And now we're there. We're there and I can go help Justine and then we're gonna march forward. So
I
thi- let me,
think I'm good. I
Oh,
went,
good.
you know, because I still have my notes from last class. So I got in there, I went to Bridge.
oh, cool.
Then it brought up the thing about sign into Google,
And
which
you
I
signed
didn't
in?
do. I just,
Oh, no, that's a
Okay.
yes.
Okay, so there, that was my problem is I X'd out of that and then I just went back to start and went into Illustrator. So.
Okay, so you need to sign back in. So give me a second there. Let me finish here with Molly. She's almost there. So did you get into this folder? Everyone, look at this folder for a
It says
second.
Illustrator
Sorry.
share drive.
Yes, click on Illustrator Shared Drives. Double click on it. And here I want everyone to pay attention now for a minute, because this is the part that everyone, no matter if you're VDI, PC, Mac, computer, cloud, whatever, this you all need to come to when you need to watch the recordings. Because at the top left of the screen, you'll always see the Illustrator, the Zoom class recordings link. And every week, like Saturday morning, because it takes a long time to process. By the time we're done today, it takes like 6 hours to process, put in captions and all that stuff. So by Saturday morning, you can come in here and if you double click on this link, you'll see every single day, about 6 hours or 8 hours after the class is done, you'll see a link in here. Sometimes I'll put the link in sooner, but the link might not work for about 6 or 8 hours because I set it all up and then YouTube has to process the whole thing before it's actually accessible to students. But this is where the links will be every day after class and you need to catch up or if you need to rewatch a portion to remember how to do something or practice. And if you have to miss out on a bit, I expect you to watch the recording. It's not one of those things where, oh, I have to walk out today, I'll walk in next week and you'll have to tell me everything again. Rather, since the recordings exist, it is an expectation that if you missed 2 hours, you have to catch up on those 2 hours. If you missed 20 minutes, catch up on those 20 minutes. Now, if it's just the beginning and I'm saying hi, that's fine. But if it's the material that I'm asking you to do, and this is why I need to be able to give you attendance, and I can't give you attendance for just popping in unless I also see you doing the recordings, because then otherwise it's not real that you attended. You know what I mean? So if you pop in because you have a busy, I don't know if you noticed that Bonnie was back and forth, and she finally said, she's got a 13-year-old birthday party happening in her house right now. And so she had warned me about it. And she said, I think I might need to leave. And finally she said, I have to leave. It's crazy. A teenager's party.
I thought,
So,
I
but
thought she was talking about us.
no. Oh my God, no, don't take it wrong. Oh, thank you. That could have sounded that way. I'm so glad I gave her example.
Thank you.
It's crazy here. Party for teenagers. You're right. I'll tell Bonnie that she almost insulted everyone. No. Everyone she's got an actual party going on for her 13-year-old teenager that she's putting on. And she said, I'll do my best to pop in. Thing is, she's already done this Illustrator class. And so it's okay. And she won't have to redo the first day, but knowing Bonnie, she will anyway, because she's going to send me this finished assignment. But other than that, I do need to see your finished assignments, because then that shows me that you watched the video. Thus, I'm okay saying she was present, and then this school gets reimbursed. Otherwise, I'm in trouble if I say you were present if you weren't here just because you watched the video. So you would need to sign in and be part of it. Okay. Anyway, so that said, I should have had you first download. So Molly, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I wouldn't have thought that would I knew the background. So that sentence is interesting. I'll screenshot it and tell her what you all said.
I download the Illustrator class files. Is that what was supposed to download?
That was all you had to do. Cool.
Okay.
So I'm going to now let you, you probably need to unzip them and everything, but while you're doing that, when you get caught up, you can open this one. All right, so Justine, you need to reacquaint yourself with Google Drive. So let me show you one last time. I think
Skip
you're,
that step, sorry.
no, that's fine. So at I don't know if you'll have it here in this little icon at the bottom right, because you might not have it since you said no, don't connect. Do you see a little Google Drive icon there?
Yeah, but it's black and white instead of color. When I
That's
click on
fine.
it,
No.
it gives me the sign in.
Good, that's
It
what
gives
you
me
need.
the little sign in window.
Good, then sign in. With your pipeline, entire email pipeline. So it's username at pipeline.sbcc.
Yeah, no, I have it because that's how I signed in with my other thing.
Cool.
Um,
I'm gonna screenshot what Bonnie said.
that is very funny. Just how a difference in perspective can change the meaning of
I
something.
know, it's so important, isn't it? You're like, how in the world did I offend you? I was being nice. And you're like, you know what you really said?
This is a crazy party for teenagers. You're like, no, no.
No, how funny. No, she had warned me about this party and I could hear it going on in the background, but only because I knew what was happening.
Yeah. Okay. So now Google Drive wants me to allow all this stuff.
Say yes,
Let's
allow,
say
allow.
Assume. Yeah. Success.
Mhm.
You've signed into Google Drive. Okay.
All
Thank
right. So now when you go back to Bridge, you
Mhm.
should be able to click on this PC. And if you already were in this PC, you might need to click somewhere else to refresh it and then back to this PC so that your
okay.
computer knows that Google Drive is now available. And then your third or fourth choice should be Google Drive.
Okay, sorry. So okay, right. Bridge, this PC, I'm there. And then I'm sorry, what was it after that?
Google Drive. So
Down at
if
the
it's not,
bottom,
no,
same-
see if it's whichever, you
sorry,
might see
let me
it.
see what you're doing.
It might be that you need to move out and back to this PC because you were already there and you just connected to your drive. So by doing that and this, it'll refresh.
I
So
couldn't see
then-
really what you, I'm sorry, walk me through what you did, because I'm sorry, I can't really see what you're
I'm
doing.
just look at the far
Yeah.
left, and what I'm
Okay,
doing is
got
I'm leaving this PC, moving to anything else. It doesn't matter.
Oh,
Back
okay,
to
just
this
clicking
PC.
on something
That,
else.
that
Okay,
helps it refresh. That's all.
okay. I just
And
need
then
to-
now
okay.
your third or fourth choice should be Google Drive.
Down in the bottom,
Wherever it
bar?
shows up for you, as long as it says Google Drive. And no, it wouldn't be in the bottom bar.
Well, that's where I
Um,
have Google Drive. It's down in the
well,
bottom
then
dock.
go ahead and double click. You might have a different configuration of just double click Google
gone.
Drive.
I clicked on it and I opened it and it went away. So,
So
if I
can
go
you
down
share
and
your
click on-
screen then so I can help you find it? Because it could be that
Yeah.
you have a different configuration of stuff. All right. So FYI, I'm trying to get everyone caught up and start at the same time, which is why I'm hand holding everyone. But after this, remember to be at this point and practice. I'll send you links after class, reminding you how to connect. Okay, so here's what's happening. You have a very zoomed in screen, so you don't see all of them. So see how, if you look at this little floating icon, right underneath that, you have like a triangle that has a minus and a plus. Go ahead and hit the minus a few
where-
times so that
where-
it zooms back out. So
where
this
do you
little floating white drive icon,
Oh, this little icon.
right
Yeah.
under, go down with your mouse and you have like a
Oh,
minus and a plus. Yeah, so go
Yeah.
minus. There you go. You were so zoomed in that you weren't seeing it. There we go. The third one now is Google Drive.
Google Drive. Okay.
Okay,
thank you.
so shared drives. And then digital design techniques. Oh, sorry, we're in Illustrator today. Sorry, Illustrator. Sorry, too many. You're doing too many. Now, here's the thing, you guys, and hopefully this is a learning lesson for you guys. When Justine tried to describe something for me, many times I immediately know what someone's talking about because I've seen the problem so many times. I immediately answer and everyone gets it. But the moment I don't recognize what's being said, I say, share your screen. And she's in my classes. She knows. She just didn't hesitate. She shared her screen. I'll teach you how to share your screen if you haven't. But that's the way to make things move fast, because I looked at it. I knew it was wrong. She fixed it. So sharing your screen, which might seem like it's complicated, is always faster than trying to explain with words for me to maybe guess what's happening. So don't try to explain for 10 minutes. Just share your screen. Okay. All right. Click on Illustrator class files and you're ready to go. Find the little robot. It'll take a few seconds to pop up, and then find the little robot, double click, and that will open in Illustrator. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'm gonna stop your sharing.
Right.
Any other questions before I share my screen? So the file is called drawing shapes. So go to the D's or look for the little red robot. All right. I am going to share my screen. And then now that we're kind of launching into doing some work, remember, it's up to you to ask me to repeat or slow down or say that again. As we move forward, I'll stop and I'll say, hey, everyone's there. And if I say you're there, do you need help? Please let me know if you do need support. All right. So Illustrator is really good for, it's very easy to create basic shapes. And what's called basic shapes in Illustrator would be rectangles, circles, and or ovals. So circles or ovals, rectangles or squares, which are basically the same shape. Those are the two things that are very easy to create. But once you know how to create a rectangle or a circle, you also know how to create everything that's in front of you. So the first thing we're going to do is figure out how to create these rectangles and circles clearly, and then we're going to come and we're going to make, with some very basic shapes, this little robot with a combination of these basic shapes. So we're going to leave this here as an aspiration to which we will arrive. And we're going to create a new file where we're going to learn how to make a couple of these basic shapes to start with. So go up to File and click on New. And this window here is very important because especially as some 3 or 4 of you guys are in my digital design techniques class, or actually, yeah, never mind. And every single one in those programs, I teach Photoshop, Illustrator, and InDesign, and every one of those programs has a window like this. And so once you learn it in one, you know it in all of them. The Photoshop, or in this case, sorry, Illustrator is going to ask you, what kind of thing are you up to? When you are in recent, because you've had things done before, it tells you things that you've done before. But most of you guys, if this is the first time you open, you will have an empty recent. So what you would have is the choices for mobile or web or print. And notice that as I keep moving through these choices, some basic blank document presets show up. If I say print, it tells me letter size, A4, print at large. If I say film and video, it shows me different formats. If I do art and illustration, it shows me different sizes, depending on what is it that I'm up to. So depending on what you choose here, the initial settings of the file are going to be different. And you want those initial settings of the file to be what is your output goal. When I say output goal, I mean, what is it that you're ending with? What are you trying to create? Are you creating something that's going to be printed? Are you creating something that's going to be a poster? Are you going to be creating something that's going to be on a web page? Or is it going to be on all different places? Yes, Justine? Oh, stopped hearing you.
Sorry. So you said file and then new. I have the choices new window or new folder under file.
From inside of Illustrator, when you say file new,
Mhm.
you're probably not an Illustrator if you're saying that, interestingly enough.
Seems like it.
You're sure you're not in Bridge? File, new window, or new folder? Yeah, you're in Bridge. So go down at the bottom and click on the AI. And you see the
Yep.
robot, and then that file now corresponds to file new from Illustrator.
So,
Did you open the robot?
well, yeah, but that's not, that's in, I guess that's in Bridge. That's in
Well,
the tab that says Bridge. I've got the.
Yeah, and the
I
tab that
thought I
says
did
Bridge,
Illustrator.
in the tab that says Bridge, hold on, let me head back now to Illustrator. I somehow dropped out of the class. When you see this image here and double click it, it should kick Illustrator to open up. And I didn't check, I think Illustrator was open already. So you need to double click
Right, I
this
had it
file.
open already, so.
Okay, so then when you open up, you land here in Illustrator. So if you are seeing Illustrator, that same file right now is for Illustrator versus if I'm in Bridge, that file is part of Bridge, that BR there. So that
Right.
file shows you something that's not what we need. So you need, so, oh, I know what's happening. I know what's happening. You have your, you have this program that you have okay, remember I told you guys to expand your programs? When you have these kind of one on top of the other and then they're same color, it's very hard to know where these things go. So that's why you're having those problems. So go to the very far right of whatever's in front of you and click on this little box to maximize, and then go down to the other program, which would be Bridge, and see, this is what's happening. If she's in one, but you're seeing the file twice, it becomes really confusing. This is why I ask people to maximize, and then you clearly have a file for your own thing. Do I need to stop so you can share?
I guess so. I'm sorry. I get frustrated
worry.
because I'm working with a pretty small screen anyway. So trying to
know,
go back
that's
and
fine.
forth and see what you're doing and try to see what I'm doing.
I know, that's fine.
And plus it's
And by the
Friday
way-
afternoon and I always just seem to be tired at this time of the week. So yeah, I'm
Don't
not at my best.
worry. Don't worry,
We'll
don't
see.
worry. We're all here trying to learn. So here we go. You're in Illustrator right now.
Right,
Okay. So that file that's up there will be the right one.
right.
So
But I was
when you-
confused because I'm not seeing the robot here, but is it just because I haven't gotten far
You
enough
haven't
into the-
opened it yet. No, so go back to Bridge. Go down to Bridge. And you have to double click on this guy.
double click
double
up on
click.
the robot?
On the robot. And you double click, it'll open up in Illustrator. Now you also have this other window opening in Bridge, so it's going to open up in the background, but that's okay because you're already in the midst of opening something else. Okay. So now you're in the right place, and up here on where it says recent, top left, saved mobile, web, print, film, video. That's what I'm showing right now. So go click on mobile.
Oh,
Okay. And so guys, I'm going to keep showing right now based on her screen. So I'm in the same place I was before. So notice that when she clicks mobile, if you look to the right side, it shows you, or underneath it shows you, iPhone size or Google Pixel phone or iPad Pro or stuff like that. We don't use this much anymore. We don't use these fixed sizes anymore. But if you're trying to create demos of stuff, or you're trying to create just kind of samples of something, this is a good way to have a beginning idea of what size that should be when you're trying. Okay, so then, but we don't want to do mobile. So then you go up and you choose the web choice, which is right next. Every time you choose one of these, on the right side, different decisions are made. So where it says preset details, it puts you in RGB mode, or it puts you in CMYK mode, or it puts you in stuff that right now you don't know what it means, but the program's making these choices for you. So we're going to start by going to print. Okay, so go to print, everyone. She's going to print. And the choices are presets underneath you, letter, or all that kind of stuff. We're not going to go with any of those preset sizes. We're going to fit our own size. So head over to the right side to where you see that panel on the right side. And it tells you, okay, width and height. But notice that the width and height is in a size called points, which is not a size that really is very helpful to us, because how many of you know what 612 points is? Probably not many of you guys, right? So the goal is to understand. So where it says points, go ahead and change that to inches. Click on that thing.
The only way I would know. The only way I would know is that it says letter, so I'm assuming 612 is 8.5.
I was gonna say it's a good. It's actually it's very correct. It's absolutely correct. But other than that, yeah, how else would you know?
Without that.
So now that it's in inches, the translation was it was 8.5 by 11, but we wouldn't have known that, right? So now we don't want an 8.5 by 11. Let's start with 11 by 8.5. And how do you do that? Instead of changing the numbers, no, down right underneath inches, you see the little portrait or landscape, those two little icons. Switch to landscape, click on that one. Yeah. Oh. And then see how in the width and height, it switched to 11 by 8.5, you guys.
There you go.
So everyone do that. And then the next thing it asks us is artboards. So how many artboards do we need? And in Illustrator, an artboard is actually a page. Right? There's more to that, to what an artboard is, but it's the equivalent of a page. If you're in Photoshop, it's a canvas. If you're in design, it's a page. In Illustrator, it's an artboard. So right now we're going to keep it at one artboard. So one artboard's all we want. And for now, we're going to ignore the rest of the choices and go with the default choices. I'm just going to point out the color mode. The color mode is saying CMYK. CMYK is the colors of ink: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. And why does that matter? Because we said that we're going to print. And when you go print something, you print with inks. So those are the colors of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black were the colors of ink. If you ever printed on your home printer, you know that you buy a cartridge or individual cartridges, it's those four colors. But if you send the coffee table book to the printer to be printed, it uses those same four inks. So because we said print as the preset, it's already setting our document to the right color mode, which is CMYK. All right, scroll a little bit down. We're going to not change any of the other choices, but scroll down until you get the okay.
I'm scrolling down, but it's not going any further.
Yeah, you're having an issue where your window, let me see if can you do a control minus and see if the screen kind of reduces in proportion? Yeah, it reduced a little bit. There we go.
I was just making the window bigger.
Yeah, so now say create.
There we go.
Okay. And now I'm
Diana,
going to stop your sharing and I'm going to
I
ask
need
questions.
some help, Diana.
Yeah, great.
Okay.
Go
can
ahead
I
and please share your screen. Yeah. Good timing. I was finishing this up.
Okay, so this is where I'm at. Were we supposed to choose letter or? Sorry, I got
None of them. None of them. You would go over there to where it says preset details, all the way to the right, all the way to the right, right is the other way. Yeah, right there where your mouse is right now, head down to where you see the word points. There you go.
Okay.
And then that points is what we changed to inches, I'm sorry.
Inches, okay.
And then here, all we did is we switched the from where it says orientation. Stay where we are. Stay your mouse
Okay.
by the inches. Yeah. Where it says orientation, we hit the landscape orientation, which is that sideways one. Yeah. Click on that one.
Okay.
So then the image is going to be, that's it. And now you have to scroll all the way down to say create. And you're already scrolled down. So just like Justine, you need to move, go to where you see that white bar on the very top of the window, click and drag it up. See if you can up, like as far up as you can. Yeah, there we go. We're almost there. We need to see a little bit higher up. Yeah, maybe that, yeah, create, perfect. There we go. Sometimes when you're sharing space on screen so much, it's hard to see the entire dialog box. So, okay, let me share my screen now. Because I actually was watching. Oh, here's my screen share. Here we go. All right. So now we have a window that has a blank page, one artboard. Okay. Now this is Illustrator. Has anyone? No, I already asked you who's used. I know who's used Illustrator or not before. I'm going to try to teach Illustrator in a new way right now, not in a new way, in a new mode. And let me explain. Those of you who've been taking Illustrator or InDesign or Photoshop with me before, I've been using a workspace that I kind of like better because it's the workspace I've used for 20 years. What I mean by workspace is what tools are available to me when we start, right? And we can change what tools are available. But when people start, these are the tools they're given, the ones that just opened up. And I'm accustomed to a set of tools where up on top you have a bar of tools. And that's a different workspace. Let me show it to you. Don't switch to that. But over here, this one that we're in is called Essentials. Look what happens when I hit on Essentials Classic. See how I get a ton more tools? So I've used that for 20 years, so I'm accustomed to it. But there's a reason why Illustrator is trying to start people off with just the basic essentials. There's less tools available, which might make it easier or harder, but I'm going to teach today's class in the way Illustrator opens up. And then when I find that we actually need something a bit more in depth, then I'll go ahead and have us change our workspace. But let's try this now. Go up here to this little icon, and it's the one that's showing up right next to the, kind of to the far right above these panels. And notice that you can change to painting, and then you get these tools for painting. You can click and you can change to web design, and you get these tools. You can change to layout, and you get these tools. So it's kind of like having a whole bunch of possible types of art that you can do. And you can't have all the tools for art at the same time. So it makes you choose, well, what do you want to do right now? So right now, Essentials or Essentials Classic is how it starts. And it's kind of a little smorgasbord of the most used tools kind of thing, like the basic set of tools. It's like you get given the box of 6 crayons instead of the box of 64 crayons. So we're going to start with a box of 6 crayons, okay? To have a reduced set of choices to begin to get accustomed to how Illustrator works, okay? So if you've taken this class with me before, you might be in Essentials Classics because that's where I've usually taught it. If you are there, please change it back to Essentials for now. And we're going to go with this workspace to begin with today's class, which is different than what I've done in the past. All right, so all of these tools that are available to me start at the left side. So here on the left side, I'll see 2 different kinds of arrows, which are selection and direct selection tool. These are the most important tools. We should be on the top black or direct or regular just selection tool most of the time that we're in Illustrator. And we live there. Whenever we finish with something else, we go straight back there. It's kind of like the home tool, the one that's safe, that does the least damage if you by mistake click on it. So consider that whenever you're using something else, just go straight back to the home tool, and that's a good choose. It's a selection tool. And notice that when I hover over the selection tool, it gives me a tooltip, but right after the word selection tool, it gives a little parentheses, the letter V. See the letter V there? That's because that's the quick way to get back to the selection tool. So go click on something else that here. I'm going to click on this thing there. And then when someone is selected, I'm going to just hit the V key and boom, I go straight back to the selection tool. Now I'm going to go to this magnifying glass. I said it this time on my own. And then I'm going to hit the V tool and I go straight back to the black selection tool. So hitting the V is a good way to remember to go back to the selection tool. By the way, again, this is also Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign. It's just all over the place. It's all these shortcuts apply to anything. So if you're learning one, you're already way ahead on the curve of learning the rest of them. So first thing we're going to do is try to make some basic shapes. And about 4 or 5 tools down, you see a little rectangle tool here. Go ahead and click this and hold for a second your mouse, like a little long click. And if you just do a single click, all you do is turn it on. But if you click and hold your mouse down a little bit, see all these different choices that come up? These are rectangle, ellipse, polygonal, star, and line segment tool. Oh my goodness, this is so awesome. You guys who have done this with me before, you know how I hate that at the bottom here, there's a tool I always have to tell you not to click. I don't know if you remember. Anyone who's taken this class before, I'm always telling no clue. The bottom tool that was here was a weird one. And when people got into it, I had to extricate them from it. In the essentials mode, they have figured it out and they didn't even put it in there. So that's pretty cool. So they put the line tool here instead. That's good. So let's go ahead and click on the rectangle tool, the top one. Yes.
Anna, I'm sorry, I had to step away for a moment, but I heard you say put it on essentials. I just can't find where to do.
It's okay. You have it on essentials. You started
okay.
For the first time, it's on essentials.
All right.
So go to the 4th or 5th icon down, which is the rectangle tool, and choose rectangle. All right. So now what we have in our hands is the possibility of making rectangles. Now, if all I do right now is make a rectangle, I click and drag and make a rectangle. And woohoo, we made a rectangle. It's kind of a boring rectangle, but we started, we did something. Now, the whole point is it's boring because I have a white background and this is a white rectangle. So how boring can it be? So can I change the color of this rectangle so it's not so boring? Yes, we can. I made it over here. I will head all the way over here, and where it says appearance and fill, I'm going to click on this little white box because it's filled with white, and I'm going to change the color to something else. And I can click all over the place to make it different colors. And in fact, if I keep going down this small subselection of what we call swatches, these are color swatches, I will end up getting to a place where I can fill this with some gradients or some transparencies, or even some textures and some pattern fills. So this is all kind of like the basic set of colors, CMYK, that comes when you open any basic document, blank document. This is what's called a default set of swatches, which is like a bunch of basic colors and a couple of gradients and a couple of film patterns. Okay, fill with foliage in this case, or this one's called pompadour, which is just some kind of temp. So the only thing that we want to avoid is this little registration button. Don't use that one at all. Not that you ever would be tempted to, because it's not a color, but if you do, we don't want that. And then go ahead and choose any color that you want. Except for blue. Don't choose blue, light blue or dark blue. You'll know why in a minute, but let's just do a color. So I'm going to go with orangey-ish, yellowish. All right. So now that means that we have a fill. And so what I did to get rid of this palette is I clicked on some neutral place, which is like, this is neutral. It's just gray and it's not bugging and there's nothing to click on. And that's how I took this little palette off. All right. Now, there's something else that's happening here, and I have a stroke. And this, I'm not a stroke, like I'm not having a stroke that you have to call the ambulance, but a stroke is an outline for a shape in Illustrator or in InDesign or in Photoshop. Anytime you have a vector shape that has an outline to it, that's called a stroke. Now, in this case, we have a black stroke, a 1-point black stroke. Let's go ahead and make it bigger so you can really see what I'm talking about. Do I really have a stroke? Let's see. I can click up this arrow. And yeah, there comes a stroke. Yes, Jenny?
I had a step come to my car because where I was at, there's gonna be a lot of people. So I got left where we put the color.
So all we did was put the color. That's good. If you chose a color, and all we've done is now I'm going one under, which is the stroke. So right now we haven't changed the color of the stroke. We've just made it bigger. So I'm going right.
But how
here.
do I add the color to inside of it?
Oh, click on these boxes and choose a color and it changes.
Hold on. Where? But how do I get to that?
All right. So did you make a shape though?
Yes, I have a shape. You want me to share my screen?
No. If
No,
you have
okay.
a shape,
Yeah.
if you have a shape, then is that shape
Just
have these little kind of boxes around it, or is it just?
Yeah, it does, but it doesn't have the border like yours.
All right. So then go over here to the far right where you see the word fill and a white box. Click on it. Click that white box. That yours is white still if you haven't chosen a color. And then this box should pop up. Did it pop up?
No, I go over to where? To the right?
Yeah, I'm
Where it
gonna make
says
my window-
properties?
I'll make my window a little bit smaller. So that way you can see it easier. Yeah.
Where it says
Yes,
properties?
where it says properties. Do you see
Okay.
under the word appearance, do you see a fill with a white box?
Okay. I see.
On
Okay.
that white box. And
Okay.
then choose a color.
Okay. All right. And then after that, you did the border. How do you do that?
Okay, so the stroke already exists, and I know that because I'm seeing that this thing here is showing me that it has a stroke.
Okay.
And so I'm just making it bigger. So I just move these little arrows, or you can click on this arrow and choose a size like a 6-point stroke. Okay. Now,
Okay.
I'm gonna make it a bit bigger, so it's a bit more obvious. So I'm making it a 12-point
I
stroke,
see.
which is, ridiculous, but there I go. I'm making a huge stroke. But the color of the stroke I choose here, just like I chose the color of the fill there, I can click on this little box that's right to the left of the word stroke, click there, and
Okay.
I get choices for color of stroke. So
Okay,
now
got it.
I'm changing the color of my stroke, okay? So
Okay.
everyone go ahead and give the stroke a different color and choose anything except for blue. Now, why do I say that? Is because if you notice, there's a box there that's blue that I want you to look at. And when you choose blue as your choice, it becomes very hard to see that line. See that? Because the blue becomes the color of your stroke, sorry. So you don't want to go that way. So choose any color other than blue for the time being, just so that I can, just so that we can see that box, because that
One-
box is very important. Yes,
One more question. Why do they call it stroke? Is it? Why?
it's been that way since times immemorial, since the moment. I mean, there is a reason, as much as why was a measurement in points from the times when books began to be made and things were created one by one with lead little things, the machines that pressed each sheet of paper to make a book. Way in those times, each one of the little pieces was a certain amount of points high on a ruler, and that's why now you have 12 points times New Roman or whatever, right? So the
Okay.
word stroke is inherited from way the past, when a line, you stroke across something, right? So you draw
Yes.
a line. So now the line around stuff ended up being called stroke. So it's a very unsatisfactory answer, but I
No,
did
no,
make
it
a
just-
joke earlier on that I'm not having a stroke, just the box
Okay.
has a stroke.
So
But
it wouldn't
yeah,
be that's not a border, correct?
It is basically a border.
Okay,
yeah.
so it is. Okay, all right. I just trying to comprehend.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Like the stroke of a pen, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a
Yeah,
line. It's like a
Yeah,
stroke
okay.
of a pen.
That's what I was thinking.
But
Okay,
yeah,
thank you.
it is confusing. All the
It is.
terminology is.
It
yeah.
is. Um,
So I'm sorry,
so
Deanna, did you mention that we should make that border a different color? I see yours is.
yes, yeah, I clicked on this thing that was black, and then you get choices here. And so then I went ahead and chose anything other than blue.
Sorry, you
no.
click. I didn't see where you clicked in the first
Okay,
place.
so over here is where
Right.
I had my fill coal, and
Right.
right to the left of the word stroke is where I have a box that if I click, I get the same colors.
Oh,
only
I see.
this
Sorry, I
time-
clicked on the word stroke, not the
Mhm.
box. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's fine. By the way, if you click on the word stroke, since it has all these little dots in it, the word fill does nothing. But the word stroke that has these little dots actually gives you more tools for your stroke.
Yeah.
But we don't want those, so click away. Click away. When I say click away, always I mean click somewhere neutral to make that disappear, which would be over there. And then just click on the actual little icon to the left
Yeah.
of the stroke, and that brings up all the colors. So yeah, you guys, anytime you click on any word that has lines underneath, that will give you more stuff, okay? So if you want to get rid of it because you didn't mean to do it, just click away and it'll disappear. But that versus this fill has no line, so you click the fill all the way you want and nothing's going to happen. But these things will happen, okay? So that those little lines are meaningful, so to say. They just give you more tools. All right, so here we have change the appearance, and that's why this is called appearance. I'm gonna, sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's hurtful. I'm gonna put the little spotlight on the tip of my mouse, because when I say I'm gonna do this here or there, it's easier to follow my mouse around when I have this little red spotlight, okay? But the problem with this red spotlight is that some people start asking me, how are you getting the red spot? I don't see the red spot. No, you don't have it. It's me. I'm putting it on so that when I say go over to the left or to the right, you can follow the tip of my arrow better. Does that make sense? But you don't have a red tip to your arrow. So just as long as you, and sometimes it obscures what I'm trying to point to. So sometimes I don't like it, but it does seem to be more helpful. All right, so here we have a rectangle that we made. Notice that if I click anywhere in the solid fill area, this is the fill and it's solid because there's nothing transparent about it. if I click and drag in the middle of this solid fill, I get to move this box around all over the place. And then I can also, in this case, click on, oh, I told you to put any color except for blue, and then I put on blue. Hold on. That way you can see this is the thing that I needed you to see. This blue line that you see happening here on the middle of my stroke or border, that's called a bounding box. And it's holding my shape. I can alter the shape that I just made by clicking on these little squares, which are the handles of my bounding box. So I'm going to click on this handle of the bounding box and drag up, and I've altered the shape. I can click on this little handle and alter this shape. As you can see, all I'm really doing is click here and drag, click here and drag. I could say it that way easily, but I want you to, I'm using the terms of what these things are called, because in the end, that's what you're going to have to know that they're called. So that's why I'm mentioning them clearly. These little white boxes are the handles of the bounding box. And if I try to grab just the path, which is the line in between the handles, and if I just click on that, that moves the box. See, it's just a move, as opposed to grabbing it from exactly the handle where my mouse turns into a double-headed arrow, and then I don't move it, I modify the shape. Does that make sense? So you need to be either on the fill to move it, or even on the edges to move it, but you have to be on the handles. So now I'm going to be in a corner handle, which if I move in or out, allows me to do both height and width at the same time. Okay, so now I'm going to move from the bottom up, from the up down. It doesn't matter what direction you're in. They must be still working on that fire, because I'm hearing helicopters and not helicopters, running atop of my head all the time. I don't know if you guys can hear them through my headsets, but I've got tons of planes flying over me. Anyway, I'm guessing it's the fire. I don't know. I hope there's not a new fire.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I hope not. Actually, I don't know. There's so many things in the air. Can you guys check the news to see if something's happening?
Yeah.
Oh, they're saying it's a military plane. Okay. Yeah, because it's bugging my speaking. I feel like I'm speaking louder and louder. It's been circling for quite a while. All right.
Oh, there is somebody
All right.
who's been arrested on arson charges for that fire last night.
Oh,
I see that in the news.
wow. Maybe
But yeah,
they're escaping into my neighborhood.
I don't see any new fire reported in the news.
All right. Okay. So here we go. We have our shape. We can move it around, and notice that all this time, all I'm doing is I'm using, oh, maybe I made a mistake here. I never told you guys to leave the rectangle shape.
No, you didn't. That's why I was just going to say, Deanna, I'm trying to pull and drag, and it's doing all different kinds of stuff. It's not doing what yours is doing.
It just occurred to me that I've been explaining the stroke and answering, and I forgot to tell you to go back to the move tool. So if you were still in the rectangle tool and you tried to click and drag, then what you've been doing is you've been making more boxes. Has this been happening to you?
Yeah, and plus making
You've been trying to grab something.
making all kinds of other things sticking out of it.
So if you grab the handles, you're fine. But if you try to grab the solid stuff and make something, what you've made is more boxes. As you can see, I can make bazillions of boxes. Why? Because I still had the make rectangle tool on my hand,
Right.
which is why, remember I said at the beginning, and now you get the message. When you're done with using a tool, go back to the home tool, because otherwise you can get into trouble. So by not having sent you back to the V or direct, selection tool, those of you who stayed on this one were able to, yes, move the handles, that it lets you do. But as soon as you tried to grab the edges, then all you could do was more little weird things like that began to probably happen. And that's because you guys made a ton more boxes. Okay, let's fix this. First of all, let's go select the selection tool. Okay, so that we're back to our home tool. We want to go back there, which is why I hit the V key, and you're safe. Now, you could fix this by selecting and deleting, but it's much easier in Illustrator, in Photoshop, in InDesign, in Word, in web design to undo instead of fixing. So instead of trying to select and delete these things, I'm just going to undo, which is also one of the first shortcuts I ever teach, in case you don't know how to do a shortcut, because you can always go up to the file, edit, undo, but that takes forever. But undo as a shortcut is really easy. So if you haven't made many of these boxes because you figured it out soon enough, please make 2 or 3 really quickly so that you have a whole bunch of extra boxes that you, some of you are good at Illustrator because you've done this before and you already knew to stop, or you're just like, you figured it out. But if not, you kept making boxes. So now, how do you undo all this stuff we made? You hold down either the command key for the Mac or the control key for the PC and the VDI people. Hold down the control key and then tap the Z. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to keep tapping the Z because I'm undoing every single thing I did until I'm back to having just one. Okay. So I kept down the control command key and I just went undo, 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 undo by tapping all the way back to just the one shape. All right, did that work for everyone?
It didn't seem to
Cool.
work for me, so I just
Stop.
did it from the edit pull down, but I'll try it next time and just see why that didn't work.
Did you hold down control?
I'm holding down command. I'm on a Mac.
Are you on?
You
No,
wanna
you're
hold-
on VDI. And you're on
Oh.
VDI, you're on a PC. Thank you.
So
Good
it's
for
it's
whoever.
Control Z instead of Command Z. Okay.
All the
That's why it didn't
shortcuts,
work. Thank you.
all the shortcuts on the VDI are going to be the PC shortcuts, no matter what computer you're on. So thank you, whoever
Yeah, thank you. That
Um,
that throws me.
pointed that out. All right. All right, so now we're gonna, now that we are for sure back into your move or V or selection tool, those are our names for this black arrow tool. Now try to click and drag to move it from the fill, okay? Because now that's what should be working. All right, cool. Now, I want us to make this, you know, fill maybe 1/4 of the screen or something like that. I'm sorry, I'm looking up about 1/4 size of the screen. And I'm going to stop for a second and show you the difference between, this has been selected all this time. If I now click somewhere in this just neutral background, my shape became deselected. And that's an active selected shape with a bounding box. This is a deselected shape that I'm not working on. Notice what's happening here in the properties panel. In fact, I'm going to move it over here a little bit more so it's more obvious. When I select my shape, all these different choices appear for things I can do to that shape. I could transform it, I could fill it, I could stroke it, I could give it opacity, I could align it to stuff, I could do all the stuff that probably we don't even want to be beginning on. Now I'm gonna click away. And when I click away, my properties panel changed. Now it's only giving me ideas of things I can do to whatever is now selected, which is nothing. So now I can do things to my document setup or to my preferences. I can add more artboards, more pages, but other than that, it's not like I can do anything else. So this is the properties panel is dependent on what is selected, and it only gives you the options based on what you can do to what is selected. So if you select that, oh, you can do all this to that. If you select the background, oh, you're selecting the artboard, you can do all this to the artboard. Does that make sense? So it's a contextual tool panel, we call it, based on what's needed. So for better or for worse, for teaching, I kind of like to have the panels where everything is always in the same place, because then people learn where things are. But what's happening is that most of the tools are being made this way now, where they are contextual and things don't appear unless you need them. And the only way they appear is if you select them. So you need to learn to select something when you need to work on it to see the tools available for that thing. Okay, so that's why I'm going to try to teach with the properties panel the other panels that I choose before have the things in the place always. And I'm torn. I'll see based on the reaction of this class, which one you guys find it easier to learn. I'll find out if it was easier for you guys this time or not. Based on that, this is what illustrators consider as simpler for people. Give them only the tools they need kind of thing. So if you click on that, oh, all these tools shows up. If you click away, all those tools disappear. All right. So now, one more thing. Let's click on this little rectangle again. And there's one more little thing about this rectangle I haven't explained yet. Two more things I haven't explained yet. One is, what's this little center thing that's right there? That little center there sometimes matters, sometimes does not. It's the exact center point of this shape. And right now, if you click on that to move, or if you click on this area to move, it makes absolutely no difference. There's certain tools though, where this center point will matter, because based on that center point, things will rotate, or not based on the center point. So there's places where that center point matters, but that's all that little dot is right now. It doesn't really have any significance. Now, there is another thing here that does have significance, which are these little circles on the corners of the shape. You see that? These little circles are what allow me to make this shape into curved corners. So I'm going to click on this little circle and I'm going to drag in. And as you can see, my shape, and look at the outline, look at the stroke, begins to pop in. Notice though, that my bounding box that I talked about yesterday is still a rectangle, but my shape begins to turn into a circle to the point that I can turn it not into a circle, but into a little capsule, a little oval kind of thing. All right. Now, if I want to make it back into what it was before, I grab that thing and I pull it out, and I can pull it out all the way until I get back to having a very angled corners. Okay, I'm about to have my headsets die. When they die, I'm gonna have to plug in my other headsets, which they're warning me that the battery is low. Let me see if I have another set ready to go. I'm gonna have to put this one in. Give me a second, you guys. This one started to get kind of glitchy on me, which is why I've been using these headsets. But let's see if you guys can hear me. Can you hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay, if the sound gets kind of glitchy or in and out, let me know, and I'm going to charge these so that they're ready to go. But these began to give me problems last week, so I switched to these wireless ones, but the wireless ones lose. Okay, I'm charging my wireless ones and now I'm connected to the computer. Okay. Can you guys say something to see if I can hear you?
Yes, Archie's come to visit.
See, that's the problem. I
Archie's
don't hear
making
you.
a cameo appearance. Yes, say hi to everybody. There you are.
Okay, say something.
Hello, hello. Archie says hi.
I'm gonna have to take them off. Okay, say something now.
Hello, hello.
Yeah. I need to fix the camera.
Archie.
Okay, you know what? I know I have another pair of headsets somewhere in the house. This is a good time to give us all a break while I go
I was
find
gonna say, is it almost time for a break? There you
it
go.
is. And I was waiting for a normal stopping moment. I was about to finish explaining this, but my headset not working is a good stopping point. So, and this is a good stopping point. I just wanted to show you this little corner thingy. One last thing, and then it's a break, which is I'm going to want to do only one at a time. What if I only wanted to do one corner and not all four corners, right? So if I hold down the control key, I click on one corner, right? Oh, sorry. If I click on the one corner first, see how now it turned it blue? Don't hold the control key down, just click on one corner. Then you can click in and move only one corner, okay? So no control key, just first you click away, click on the shape and you choose a corner and click on that little round circle. It comes kind of blue and then I can pull that one in. And then I can click on this one guy here and just pull that one in. There you go. So now that's the shape I ended up with, okay? Just by choosing which corner to bring in. If I want it to be back a rectangle, I just pull that one out again. All right, go ahead and do that. And then I pulled the other three, but it's more like a little, this looks like a little caravan now. All right, Okay, so play around with those guys. And again, if you click on it individually, you can work with it individually. If not, it takes all the rest of the material. And- all right, let's take a break. What time is it? 3:50. So we'll see you at 4:10. Okay. I'm gonna write here on the break. Be back from break at 4:05. It's 54:05 at 4:06, whatever, 15 minutes. Okay, I'll see you guys at 4:06 p.m. Is my calculation right? Is that 15 minutes? Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
My brain's also shot by the end of Friday. Okay, see you guys in 15 minutes.
All righty.
All right. There's still another minute to go, but I just wanted to test my new headsets. Can somebody say something to see if I can hear them? Or make some
Hello.
noise? Yes, it's
Hey
working.
there. Hello, hello.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Can you
Just
hear us? I mean, can you hear me?
yes. It's working. Can you hear me? Yeah, or you wouldn't have spoken. So it's all working. Let me.
Yeah, that's the tip off right there.
I know. Let me go one more second. I need to grab. There we go. I usually stand when I teach. But after hours and hours of teaching, by Friday night, oh, I'm gonna sit. There we go. Ah, a little bit of sitting, not much, but it helps. Okay. Yeah, I have a standing desk, so so it works really well, but after, Friday after, I can't even count how many hours of Zoom I've spent on in front of the screen this week. Because when you're teaching, you're standing, but you're walking around, so you're moving. But when you're teaching on a computer, you're standing in front of Zoom, and so it's kind of hard on legs not to move, to just stand. Okay. All right. Is everyone back, you guys? Come on back. Come on back. I see some people here, and others who had their computers on before are now off. So just to make sure that you're around, there you go. You said yes, perfect, clap, awesome. Video, you're all here. Perfect. Well done. So I want to reiterate for anyone who had any issue connecting to the files VDI, any of that kind of stuff today, opening up, getting when the program's gonna, I'm going to send you, soon after class is out, I'm going to send an email with links to videos, not the whole class videos, but just videos that just show you this whole process, okay? That run you through how to get in and connected. And your serious homework is to run through them 10 times this week. Open up until it's second nature, so that next week when the class starts, we are just, VDI is already connected. Illustrator is opened up, Bridge is opened up, files are on Google Drive, refreshed, you've disconnected and connected to Google Drive, you have a clean, fresh connection to Google Drive, and we're ready to march into battle. Does that make sense? Because today I'm hand holding everyone. I want everyone to catch up, to make it in. I tried to work it in waves where people who didn't need help came in second, but then we had some technical glitches. So anyway, next week, if you need help and it's not working, reach out before class, not before class on Friday, because I teach all morning. Reach out like the days before when it's not working, when you've been testing, and I can help you, because then I teach all day on Friday morning. And if you try to reach out to me at 11 a.m. to help you, I'm in class. I can't help you. So reach out to me before Friday. All right. Where were we? Sharing my screen. Let's share my screen again. Here we go. Okay.
Oh, hi, Deanna. It's Pilar.
Hi, Pilar.
I forget now. How do you pick the corner to just do one?
Yeah. So
I missed
when
it.
no, that's fine. When you click on a shape, right, and you see the bounding box and all the things, if you then click again on one little circle, then you can click again and activate that circle. So it's like a series of clicks. You have to first select it. That's the first click. Then you have to go choose and click on a little corner that you want. And then you have to grab it again and drag it, okay? Because if you just suddenly see it and drag it, then that's what activates all of them at the same time. So you need to select, get that little dark circle around one and not around the rest, and then you go back to that same one, and then you operate that one.
Okay. The going back is what I missed. Okay.
Yeah, it's complicated because it's like, how many more times do I need to click on this thing? Well, it's the one time if it's not selected. So that's just to select the piece. The second time is to select the corner you want to work on, single click to separate it from the other four. And then you go back the next time and actually move it. All right.
Okay.
Deanna, I was playing around with it on my own because I also missed the explanation of how to do that. And I just double clicked on it, which now listening to your explanation basically does the same thing. But I thought I discovered it. I'm like, oh, I just have to double click and then I can pull one corner.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
basically.
Yeah. So it depends on how many, if it was already selected, it's a triple click kind of, in the sense that you need to select and then double click. But if you were already having it selected, then it's a double click. So cool. All right, so here we have our good old shape that we've managed to modify with the onboard tools, so to say. The onboard tools are, I don't remember the name of these little circles. They have some technical name. I think it's the curvature tool, but I'm not sure, because the curvature tool really is this tool. So I'm not sure what those little circles are called. It doesn't matter. The little circles that turn angled things into circles.
Corner
Only
points?
maybe, are they, is that the name, corner points? Maybe.
Close as possible.
Yeah, it has some technical name. The whole point is they only appear in these rectangles or shapes made by this shape tool. There's other things you make that have angled corners that don't end up having that. It's only in these little shapes that you pull out with the rectangle tool. Okay. Now, this box that looks like a bounding box kind of looked like the shape of the rectangle, but you already saw that when you bring in these angles, that nope, that box stays rectangular, because it so happens that in the rectangle, the shape of the path and the shape of the bounding box happen to be coincidentally in the same place. But as you can see, if the shape is not a rectangle, then that is the bounding box, which is kind of like the basket, the catch-all. And this is the path. And the path is the edging of the shape. Okay, now it makes a difference. So we'll learn why in a little bit longer, but now let's start by making a different shape. Let's start by making instead of a rectangle, let's make an ellipse. A rectangle, you can make a square of any kind and type, or a square or a rectangle of any type and kind. With an ellipse, you can make any kind of oval or circle. So let's choose an oval or circle. Before we make it this time, now we are aware of this appearance thing here. And notice that because the appearance says orange fill, 12-point green stroke, when I make my circle, that's what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a orange fill with a 12-point green stroke, or whatever your choices are, right? But meaning that's what's commanding the look of this thing. Now, if I can change it beforehand or afterhand meaning it's already made. Now I can go and change this one to something else. So let's go change it to something totally different. And you choose what you want to change about it. I'm going to go ahead and change that and that. And I'm going to make the stroke this time much thinner. There you go. And only saying much, I still want to see the bounding box, but as you can see, this occupies that same kind of slot as this did, in that once the corners are not in the actual corner, then you end up having a bounding box that is out there
Diana?
versus in here. Yes, Jenny?
I don't see the little tool that you use to create the circle oval.
Okay.
I don't either. That's my
okay.
question too.
Okay, great. Sorry. So when you see the rectangle that we made our circles from,
Hold on.
click and hold down.
Oh,
Click and
Oh, okay.
hold down. And when you hold down, then you
Oh,
get
there we
other
go.
options of basic shape. These are called the primitive shapes, is really the name this toolbox has.
Oh,
the
okay.
Primitive shapes, not basic. So you
Okay.
get the rectangle, the ellipse, the polygon, the star, and the line, although the line is considered an open primitive shape versus these are enclosed primitive shapes. But anyway, they're still primitive.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So now that you've made a circle and you know from past circumstances that if you keep playing with it, you'll make more, just go and switch to the V or selection tool so that you're done and you don't have to make more circles to move it around. Now notice that now that it's already in existence, if I want to select it, and then I want to select the other one, the first one stops being selected. Like it's one or the other, right? One or the other. So, well, what if I wanted to move both at the same time, right? What if I really wanted to move both of these down at the same time? How do you do that? Well, a couple of different ways. You might know from just about every other program in the world, and some of you never heard of this though, but you might know of it. If you hold down one selection, hold down the shift key and then make another selection, then both things get selected. So this is just one of those rules from computerdom where holding on the shift key allows you to select something else. So that's one way. Shift, after you click the first one, then you hold down the shift and then you click the second one. Now you can see how the bounding box is still one. There's always one bounding box, no matter how many shapes you have. And this blue line is the shape that actually is the path that makes the shape. The bounding box is just the basket holder. This time it's a basket with 2 eggs. This time it was a basket with 1 egg, a basket with 1 egg. Now it's a basket with 2 eggs. It just coincidentally happened that in the case of the rectangle, the basket is the same shape as the rectangle, but it still was truly just a holder, right? But you can see very well in this shapes that the line that makes the shape is called a path, which is different than the bounding box. And thus, when you choose 2 things, there's still one bounding box, and now there's the path for the ellipse and the path for the rectangle. All right, why am I saying this so much? Because the paths and the anchor points are really the important portions of an object. When I click on a shape, let me click away to get rid of the selection and click back on this rectangle. I have the anchor points are the corners. The originating ends of the shape. So it's easier to see the paths and the anchors if I change arrow instead of working with this black arrow key that I've done a bunch of stuff with. Oh, by the way, we didn't do that, but we can modify the shape. We can modify the size with the handles again. So, oh God, I'm having a hard time hitting the right handle. Let me change my mouse. I have a mouse that's a bit too sensitive. So when I move this in or out, bounding boxes allow me to squish and stretch, keeping the same general idea. This I can squish and stretch, but it's still basically a rectangle. This is still basically some kind of an oval, right? It's still a recognizable oval. Now, let's copy these 2. So let's select. Let me do it the Illustrator way. The normal way of copying something is to copy paste, which you can do. You could copy paste, but in Illustrator, there's an even faster way. Select a shape, hold down the, hold down the Alt key. I need to look down. Since I'm a Mac person, I always have to hold down the Option key for Mac people, or Alt people who Alt for the PC and VDI, Mac VDI. Hold down the Option Alt key and pull out a copy. Now select this one here, hold down the Option key and pull out another copy. Did that work? Notice that when you select a shape, first you select it, then you hold down the Option. See how my arrow turns into 2 little arrows? It's telling me that it's about to pull a second one out. Okay, so I got another one out. Let go of the Option key. It's not a double-headed arrow. I have it, hold it down there. Yeah. So I just want 2 more of these guys now. Okay, so here I have the first ones and here I have the second ones. Does anyone need help with that duplicating command? Is that working for you?
I'm a little shaky.
All right, so select first shape.
Right.
Now, hold down the Alt or Option key. Keep it held down. Keep it held down.
Sorry, should I be in the ellipse tool?
Yeah,
this
no,
point?
no. You should be now in the Move or Selection tool.
Oh, okay. That's
We
why
are
this
now,
isn't.
once we're done
Right.
making ellipses, I forgot to mention it again, but just begin to know, once you're done making a shape, you move out of that shape. And I am so automatically entrenched in that, that although I keep saying something like, okay, now let's grab, when I say let's grab, the assumption is you've moved to the grabbing tool. I have to make a better reminder of saying all the time, the V or selection tool.
Yeah, thanks.
Because you have to leave the making tool and go to the moving around tool, and the making tool is done. Now we select
Right.
and hold down the Option or Alt key, and now you see the double-headed arrow that your mouse turned into. That's the time with your mouse to click and drag out.
No.
Okay.
I get-
All right. So select a shape.
Right. It's selected.
Okay. Hold down the Alt and Option key and
Uh-huh.
keep it held down.
Uh-huh.
Your mouse now turn into a double-headed tip.
Oh, I see. Sorry, when you said double-headed, I was picturing head,
Yeah.
when people say
I got it.
double-headed, usually they mean arrow on each end.
You are
It's
so
a-
right. It's a
It's a
different,
double, yeah, it's got a double thing. Okay.
give a little mirror image, I guess, or a little,
yeah.
yeah, got it. So
So-
now keep
okay.
your mouse, keep your keyboard
Right,
down, and with
right.
your mouse, drag out and you pull out. the
There we
cover.
go. Okay, yeah, voila. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, double-headed, a double image, a
Yeah,
duplicate.
it is a kind of a double.
All right, because I always talk about a double-headed arrow,
It's the
which is
seeing double.
this one. Like
the
this is a
seeing double.
double-headed arrow, right? Like that one.
Yeah, that's
a
what I was
double-headed arrow.
thinking. too.
So this is a different kind of double-headed
Yeah.
arrow. Okay, got it. So, so you saw that we can modify with the selection tool that activates the bounding box. We can modify the height and width of any shape that we want. But basically, a rectangle is still a rectangle and the circle is still a circle. Now we're going to shift that. We're going to select these two bottom shapes. And what we're going to do this time is we're going to go and shift from the white selection tool, from the black selection tool, sorry, to the white selection tool, the second one. Now, what does the second or white or direct selection tool? If you hover over it, the tooltip says direct selection tool. See up there? The black one says selection tool. V is the shortcut. Direct selection tool, A is the shortcut. So it's the opposite end, like this is the triangle, the arrow pointing. So one is up, one is down. And so that's the A and the V and the A. So sometimes I might say the white or A direct selection tool. All right, so things are different now. With this tool, when I select my shapes, I don't have a bounding box. See that? The bounding box is missing. This happens to be a rectangle, but it's not the bounding box. Remember, it had white handles, like 9 white handles. This one does not. This one only has that which makes the shape up. It has a path and it has an anchor. See the little word anchor that points out when I say anchor? And when I hover over the path, a little path word in pink. Do you see those little words that give me an idea? As much as this one here says center. So this is the path. And this is a circle of all things has no anchors. Sorry, has 4 anchors, has no corners, but it still has anchors. Because anchors in this case are 4 and the paths are 4 for both shapes. All right, so let's play around with these a little bit. Let's go back to the rectangle. It's kind of like with this little icon here, that when I want to modify a shape with the A or direct selection tool, I can actually distort it as opposed to the black selection tool, which only makes it taller or wider or shorter or thinner. The direct selection tool completely distorts the shape. So I'm going to go to these anchor. Select it one time more. Okay, so see how now it's blue and the rest are white. And then I'm going to grab it and whoa, now I'm completely modifying. This is not I mean, it still has 4 sides, but other than that, it is definitely not a rectangle. Now I'm going to click on this one and move that one in. Click this one, move it in. So now I can even take this one way over there and make like this little cross kind of thing. Can do some weird stuff. This is me moving the anchor points. The anchor points of a shape. Okay. So now that is, I'm not going to say simple, but relatively intuitive in that you move a corner and things happen. Well, look what happens if you, instead of moving the little anchor points, if instead what you move is the paths. So I'm going to grab this path and move it. And it moves not only the path, but of course the 2 anchors that make the path happen. So then you move 2 more lines. So basically everything except for 1 line moves when I move 1 path in a 4-sided shape. Does that make sense? So you can modify either from the path or from the anchors, you can modify this shape with the white selection tool. Did that work, or does someone need help grabbing those little guys? Again, you 1 click to select, 1 click to sub-select the anchor you want to work with, and then you grab that anchor and you pull it around. Or you could say that it's a double click, which kind of works, but a double click needs a certain speed to it that this doesn't need, because this can just be a very slow 2 clicks and it still works. Okay. It's not really technically a double click, but in effect, it's 2 clicks. All right. Notice that this shape though, remember that I had told you what that center piece was, the center of the shape. When I look at this shape here, there's that center. It's not technically really the center anymore. And yet that's where that little line is showing. It could be showing out there, but if you consider that line drawn over there, it's still that little center is supposedly the center of this guy, which if you could draw a line from there to there, I guess in some averaged way, maybe it is still the center, but that's why that center line is there, but it belongs to this piece. All right, so much so good for right angled kind of shapes. Now what happens on the ellipse is a little bit more complicated, because when I try to click on these little anchors, I discover that they've suddenly attained this thing called little antenna looking things, what are called handles. Again, the word handles, because with this we control and move as much as the handles on the bounding box allowed me to move the shape. These little handles allow me to control this shape. Now, the difference is that these anchors, these little anchor points, have only one thing to do, which is move them up or down or in or out. That's it. It's one thing to click on, versus in a circular shape, in a curvy shape, not circular. Then when I click on an anchor, I have 3 things I could pull on. I could pull from the anchor itself. So I'm going to do that. And now I'm beginning to really modify this shape. It's not an oval anymore. So this is just hitting the anchor. Or I could also grab the little handles and drag them up and down like a seesaw. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Okay, oh, so click on the anchor, open the thing, and seesaw those handles to change the shape. Now, I'm saying seesaw because that's the first thing we're tempted to do, because you move one and the other one moves in the opposite direction. But you could also move it in or out. So I can grab this handle and move it out far from its path, or in nearer to its corner, to the point that I can even put it all the way in and pop it in. And if I popped it in, now I've got a straight line. This one I can move out, or I can just go pop, and suddenly I've turned that into a straight line. See that? Because I just kind of reduced it down to nothingness, and I'm left with one little handle that has a curve and no handle over here. So you can change things in many different ways with these handles, either position or angle. Just grab a little handle on this red color is not the best because you don't see the handles too well, but anyway. Now it's hard to control these guys at first when you don't know what you're doing, so it might be really intimidating, but we'll get to the place where you can begin to understand a bit more how to handle these guys in the paths and whatnot. All right, how are we doing? This is like an upside down, like Santa Claus mitten or something. I don't know what I made. I didn't make anything. All right. I'm sure out there some people are making some awesome things, and I can count on Pilar to always be making some awesome things. Not this time. I'll be showing a blob and she comes back with a cute little kitten or something. Anyway, I have a feeling that there's other people out there doing some funky, fun things that if you want to share, I'd love to see. But I'll just let you decide if you want to share them to me. All I want to know is if you have any questions. Is this working for you or not, so that I can give you a hand? Everyone good? Give me a little yes if you're good.
Working
Joel,
for
how are you
me.
doing over there? You're so quiet. Way in the background. Hello. Okay, signs of life. Molly, are you there? I actually, I think Molly had some questions before break, and I'm not sure that I talked to you again. So Molly, if you're not there.
Yeah, that's fun.
All right. So, what's that?
Oh, I was just gonna say I'm having fun with, you have kind of a blob shape and you grab one edge of it and then pull it all the way across past the other edge of it. And it's like it kind of turns it inside out.
Oh yeah. If
That's
you
fun.
do this thing and you just kind of start doing that kind of stuff and you end up with these weird.
Yeah, like that, exactly.
pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it can get kind of, and then you can also go, oh my God, how am I ever going to control these guys or something like that? Well, don't worry, we'll get there. Right now, it's just more showing you what's happening. But yeah, you can end up doing some funky little fun shapes with this. All right. So basically all I've shown you right now is the big difference between the white and the black arrow tool. Okay. Black arrow tool. Well, look at that. I shifted to the black arrow tool and there's my shape. Bounding box, square as ever. Surrounding my entirely new shape. Bounding box. It goes as best as it can from edge to edge. That's the black arrow tool. So now if I wanted to modify with the black arrow tool, this shape, all I'm going to get is this squiggle that's squished or this squiggle that's made tall, right? But it's still this recognizable squiggle versus with the white arrow tool, I can keep changing it to my heart's content. So that it is now another different shape. All right, big difference. So everyone go ahead and grab with the black arrow tool, your shapes that you deformed or altered with the white arrow tool, and now modify them in the basic up and down kind of way that you can. Now there's one more thing you can do with this black arrow tool, which I haven't shown you yet, which is to twirl things around. So I can put my mouse on the outer edge of the bounding box when you see like maybe 1/4 of an inch away or so, or 1/8 of an inch away. And then you can click and drag and twirl things around. So no matter if they are a funky shape or if they are a straight on shape, this is what lets you twirl them around. Okay. One last cool thing that I don't think I've shown you guys, and I don't think anyone here has seen, and ones of you who took the class before. So I don't know if you know this one. There's this little antenna doohickey kind of thing that's popping out of the bounding box. It's a weird one. It's a bit gimmicky, but now and then it might work. If you click on it, you can kind of click again, and then you create like an opening. Now, notice that it's not there in this bounding box. It's only in the circle, okay? So now that I'm out of a circle, it's gone. Let me go Control Z, 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 so you can see again. Just on the oval or the circle, you have like a little thingy that pops out. Click on it, and then we'll click again, and then you can make a little Pac-Man out of this thing. Okay, so I'm going to make it round again, and next thing you know, I've made a little Pac-Man, and I can keep going and make it more open. And again, how many times do you need this shape? But when you do, it's kind of cool to know that that's what that little thing does. Kind of breaks it open a bit. Okay. And the thing is, I'm mainly saying, not that it's a very useful thing to know often, but a lot of the times people grab that by mistake, and then they try to move their circle and the circle splits in two, and they're like, what is happening? Because they grabbed the shape by that little antenna, because as soon as you click that antenna, you've kind of parted a little opening, a little pizza slice opening, or I see that as a little Pac-Man opening in that shake, and that breaks it up. Okay. Does it work for everyone? All right.
Yes.
Okay, so now I'm going to have us, I'm looking at the time. Okay, perfect. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to have us, I haven't noticed that I haven't changed the attributes for these guys. Once they're done, you can change the attributes as well. You don't have to live with the same ones they came with. So we can go over here and change the fill to something else. I'm going to change the fill of the fill of this one to something deeper. So this one, I'm going to select this one now. So you have to select first what you want to change, and then you go up and you give it your change. Now I'm going to actually also change the stroke. I'm going to actually grab this one and choose no stroke. So I haven't shown you no stroke yet. No stroke or no fill is the first choice in the color palette, which is that line that goes none. So now I have no stroke on this shape. All right. And there it is. It's a goner. It has no stroke. It's just a fill. Or I'm going to go to this shape and I'm going to say no fill right there. No fill. So now I have no fill versus no stroke. Okay. Now this has fill and stroke, fill and stroke. This has only fill. So when I try to grab it from the middle, I can't. See this, I can grab from the middle. But this is truly, it's like you're trying to pick up a donut from the donut hole, but not the one that you eat, but the actual hole in the donut. Like there's nothing there. So you have to actually click on the path to move this shape, because the path still has something to it, right? Now I said no fill, and that really means no fill. If I were to put this on top of something else, there's just nothing there. It's not white fill, it's no fill. Okay. I have truly gotten an empty an empty shape, and I have to move it from the path. So everyone given no fill. And now this one is a bit easier. No stroke is just no stroke. You don't have a stroke on it, right? I mean, normally my objects don't have these big strokes when I work with strokes, but I just have made them big so you see what a big stroke is. You can change the shape and the size, or you can have no stroke whatsoever. You can have a skinny one, or you can have no stroke, or you can have no fill. Now, what happens if you have no stroke and no fill? Is that possible? Yeah. So I already have no stroke here. How about if I tell it no fill?
You just have whiteboard.
Yeah, so I still see it because I just clicked on it, but if I click away, there's nothing there. But if I hover, the shape is there. This shape, all that really matters in an object is that shape. It's those paths and angles that create that shape that are really all that matters in an object. because I can give it whatever appearance I want. I can give the stroke a funky stroke. Let's give this a funky stroke now. But to do that, I have to find it. So I need to hover with my mouse there where I know there was something. And when I see something, I stop until I find it. And then I click to select it again. So you kind of have to have an idea that there's something there. And oh, there you go. Once you touch it, it pops up. You click on it. Now you see it again. Okay. And now you can give it, let's give it a fill again. Okay. Now, here, I'm going to give it, it was green before, a fill. So you can have stroke, no stroke, fill of any color, stroke of any color, stroke of any width. Next thing, what if you have, let's get the last object you made, which for me is this one down here. I believe it's this one down here. And let's move it on top of something else. And since it's the last one I made, it sits on top of everything else, see? It covers everything. So what if I didn't want it to cover everything? I was hoping to have this be some weird kind of rocket and to have this be some kind of a blade. I'm just trying to figure out with what I made, what can I call this? What is this as a little tip to my rocket? But it needs to be on top. Yeah. But no, in the order of appearance, this is sitting on top, right? So, or you know what, it can be airplane, wings to my airplane. There you go, that would make it more sense. It's wings to my weird little airplane. Well, I can't make it that way because it's underneath. So the quickest way to do this, which is not the way I'm going to teach you in the long run to do this, but the quickest way to do this is to just arrange. So I can go up to object arrange, bring to forward, bring to back, send to forward, send to back, or I can right click and then go to arrange and find it right here. So it's already in the front. Front is the topmost layer. So if I go and I say send to back, whoops, now it went back and now it's behind this one. Okay. So now this one is on top of the green thing. And since it was the third one made, it's also on top of that one, but it's not on top of this other one. So now this one's on top. Now let me bring the orange one, which is the first one of them all, which is under everything. Everything. Now let's right click the orange one and bring it to the front. So it came up to the top. So front is the top. Back is the bottom. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Play around with all your shapes and change them from front to back, back to front. Now that's fine when what you're trying to do is extremes, front to back, back to front. But what if you're just trying to put them somewhere in the middle? What if you want this one to be behind the green thing, but not to be behind those things, right? So it becomes a little bit complicated to figure out front, back, arrange, middle. Yeah. What is this all about? So there's a better way. And I'm going to begin to show you this today. We're going to explore it over the next few weeks a lot. But instead of just guessing and saying front and back when you're not sure, because here we have 4 pieces, bringing to front and back is not that hard. But when you have 50 pieces and you want to move the thing that's on top to about 10 steps down, you would have to go move back, move back, move back, move back like 10 times, right? So instead, we can look at our layers palette. So when I, excuse me, what I want to do is I want to look at the
Diana?
layers palette. Yes,
Until how much longer are we gonna be in class?
5:15.
Okay, all right. I may log off because my computer's gonna die because I'm in the car. So I'm gonna go plug it in.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you for letting me know, Jen.
You're welcome.
So we're going to want to look at the layers to organize this a little bit more easily. Okay, so the layers palette in this mode is sitting up here at the top. properties and layers. So I'm going to click on layers. And then, especially if you come from Photoshop where you're accustomed to having 4 things would be 4 layers, over here we have 1 layer. Everything is on the same layer, but what they are is in a different stacking level. So see this little guy right there? That's an arrow. And I can twirl it by clicking on it down. And then I see my 4 shapes. See how they're kind of recognizable for their color, that these are the 4 shapes that I have. Now watch what I'm going to do. This top one, the one that's on the very top right now, is on the very top right here. I'm going to grab it and I'm going to drag it down until it's at the very bottom. And there you go. It moved to the very bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to grab the next to last. I'm going to grab, so everything has to be overlapped now. Whatever 4 shapes you made, you have to overlap them. Okay. I'm going to give this one a fill so that it's a bit easier to tell. And this is where, yeah, I like the other palette better. I have to go back to the properties to give it a fill. But anyway, I'm going to make this be deep blue. Okay. So now it's easier to distinguish here. I'm going to make it deep blue and I'm going to put it under the wings kind of thing. And there you go. It got underneath each shape a little bit bigger. Okay. Now I'm going to move the wings and move the wings all the way to the bottom. And I'm going to grab the rectangle and move it second, so on and so forth. Okay. So this is what's meant by top layer and bottom layer. At first, it's based on order of when they were made, but once you start shifting them around with the layers palette, then it's all depending on where you put them. Okay. Any questions about this shifting things around layers?
No.
All right. So one last thing about the appearance panel is that it can be, the appearance can be, as we saw, there or not there. It could be none, or it can be a solid. Or let's go back to the properties panel up here. Select maybe your big rectangle, the one that you made at the beginning, or in my case, it's the big one. And I could also make it less opaque. So I can play with the opacity. I can maybe make this be 50% opaque or 70% opaque. So see how the whole shape becomes kind of transparent. I can make it 20% and it's very, very lightweight. But just for intent purpose of understanding, 75% is enough. You can see, excuse me, that I'm seeing everything. Now notice that as much as I'm seeing everything underneath it, it's because it is the topmost layer. If I had it on its own, it might just look like it's light orange, but it's just that it's the topmost layer. And there you go. So go ahead and I have the other things that are semi-transparent are some of the gradients, like this little blue gradient here. That one is white, it's blue to white. So even if it's 100% transparent, just the transparency is a gradient that goes from dark to light. And you see how even if you have 100% color, it's still transparent because the gradient was created as a transparency. So anyway, that's a different creature, but I just wanted to say that there's other stuff. Or if you make one of these patterns that I had shown you before that you thought, oh, you just saw them over here. So you thought they had white in between the plants. Well, no, they didn't have white in between the plants. It was just sitting on white. Now, when you see it on top of something, you discover, oh, it wasn't really, and it wasn't really fill. It was just the fact that now that you have it on top of something, you can see that it was always transparent in between. So it's kind of fun, funky little aspects. This is all with the inborn appearance and choices that Illustrator gives us as basics. Then we'll be creating our own. But there you go. So that's how you manipulate the basic shapes, and there's so much more you can do, but this is a huge amount of things that happen just to start with. And one more thing, this background is actually for viewing purposes only, so to say, meaning it's not really there. We don't have white. We really have transparent. If I print this, all I'm going to get is this. So say that I decide to put on the printer paper that is red, and I print this thing on the paper that's coming out red, I'm not going to get a white box that holds these things. I'm going to have red paper with this burgundy triangle and this green shape, and this little flower is going to have all of this is going to be red in between. Does that make sense? This is truly just there for show. So let me show you how for show it is. Let's go up to the view and then head down to show transparency grid. View, show transparency grid. That's really what's happening all this time. That's the design that we're making. These are the shapes that we made. Okay. And it so happens that if I print this, as I said, on a piece of red paper, this is the shape that'll print on red. This will print on red on a, brown recycled speckled paper sheet of paper. If I really wanted to have a white block underneath this shape, I would have to make a white rectangle, right? Fill it with white and make it go in my layers underneath that blue thing. Now that is a white solid fill. But if you don't have a white solid fill, you don't see it when you're seeing. Now I'm going to go back to the opposite view, hide transparency grid. Now it just looks like it's a white outline under this black box, but no, this is truly white. And another way I know that is because if I move this over the other shapes, it does cover them. So it truly was white, okay? But that is a solid white fill, and you see there that it's solid white fill. If it's none, then that's transparent. But what you see as white fill is truly solid white, okay? Is that? So everyone make a little extra box or grab one of your shapes and fill them with white, and then hide the transparency grid and or show the transparency grid so you can really see how a white shape does stand out in a transparency grid. So it's always from the view. Now, if we were to design in this mode, it's much harder to see. Like, I can't really see that shape really well because this is a very distracting gray and white boxes. And so Adobe uses this gray and white as its shortcut to say that this is transparent. There's nothing there, but it's truly too much. So when you really want to design, you put a background on so that you can see the shape. It's too distracting. So that's why we default to say to the default view is to see the white for us to be able to see the shapes we're designing. But just remember, they're not really there. And if you really need white, you need to fill it with a solid white. Okay. Any questions?
No.
All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to save this file so we don't lose it. And then I'm going to take you guys back to the robot. And with what we've learned, we're going to see if we're going to begin to make a few of these shapes. This is something we're not going to pick up next week, but we're going to see what we can do. about these. There's actually, for the robot, there's one more thing you need to learn, which is how to make a triangle. Because you know how to make the rest of these things now, but you don't know how to make a triangle. So one more last thing. And what time is it? This will be just quick. I'll just show you how to make a triangle, and then we'll so I'm just move things around a little bit to make a triangle. We don't need to make. I was gonna make another artboard, but let's just move things around a little bit since we've stacked them all over anyway. And over here, I'll show you how to make a triangle. There's a couple different ways to make a triangle. Go back to the toolboxes, shape tools, and there's quite a few shapes here, right? So notice that the one, I'm going to just go to the two that I didn't show you yet. Let's go to the polygon tool. We'll work with the start tool next week. Polygon tool. Let's click on the polygon tool. Polygon tool is a shape with, let's see, let's click and drag. And it's a shape with 6 sides. Yeah.
Mhm.
When I let go, there's my shape. Let's give it another stroke because that stroke is very hard to see. There you go. Poor Jenny's connection is bad. She keeps dropping out and dropping in. Okay, so here I have my polygon shape, right? So I'm going to move it up a little bit. So when you make a polygon, all you get is the 6 sides that come with a shape. Now watch what's going to happen if I were to click and drag and not let go yet. I'm not letting that go yet. We'll practice more of this next week. So just watch. And I'm going to, with my mouse still pressed down, see how until I let go of my mouse, I can still modify, make it bigger or smaller. So I'm still in the process of making this shape. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to the arrow keys on my keyboard. There's some arrow keys at the bottom right of my keyboard. And if I click the up arrow key, I give it more sides. And if I click the down arrow key, I give it less sides until I get to a triangle. So I give it more sides or less sides. Now, don't worry if this is one too many for Friday afternoon. We'll do more of this, but this is just showing you a quick way to get a triangle. There's other ways to get a triangle, but this is one way.
I made one using the star.
Yeah, you can use a star as well, but the star has other complexities, but there you go. You can make it with a star. So I'm going to let go. And now I have a little triangle that I've made. I'm going to spend a bit more time on these alternate modifiable shapes next week. So if you're like, okay, I don't want to learn one more thing at this point, don't worry, we'll get there. But what I want you to do is to know that even then, all of these shapes can still be modified no matter how they got made to start with. You know, like usually the color, the new one comes out the color of your last one because that's the existing appearance. And then it's up to you to change it for it to look good. And not everything has to have a stroke or whatever. I usually make strokes and just stuff like that to make it easier to see as sample shapes. But for the most part, I prefer not to have strokes or to have really thin line ones. But there you go. So the only other shape I'm going to show you, because it's here at the bottom of this tool, is I'm going to skip the star. We're going to spend some time on star. I know Johnny used it and you guys can play around with it, but I'm going to skip explaining it.
I went back to the polygon.
Yeah, there's more to the star tool that we want to actually play with. It's just that right now I don't want to start a whole new thing, which is the star, but I will take us to the line tool, because the line tool is a good example of a single path. All you do is you make a line, and a line is basically a stroke. It has no fill. So after we drew that line, notice that over here, all it picked up was from the last color of my last stroke, and it just automatically gave me no fill. It's just one long line. Okay, so that's all it is. And it's just a line. Now, if I want to change the thickness of that line, I would have to make that thinner or thicker or thinner. And that's that line. Okay, so that's how you would make a simple line. And if you want to change where it goes, you have to leave the line tool. As much as you leave the polygon tool, leave the shape tool, go back to your selection tool, and then you pick up the little anchor to make it longer or shorter. Like, there we go. So I'm gonna make it a short and stubby, or long and skinny. And if I want to change its color, it's the stroke that I change. Okay, so that's the line tool. It's basically a stroke, a one-ended stroke. That's all the line tool is. Okay. Now, any questions about these little shapes? And if not, what we're going to do is we're going to start figuring out how to save this. And I'm going to give you guys some more indications, and then we're going to call it not a night. It's an evening at the end. In winter, this would be a night. In the summer, it's an evening. Let me. Oh, one last thing that I was about to show you before I call it an evening. It's possible that your stroke can be a different kind of line. So go grab any of the shapes right now. Here, the triangle is the first one that's handy. And the stroke that I said before could be thick or thin and a certain color. Down here, if you click on the word stroke, you'll discover that the stroke could be maybe an arrowhead, or it could be a double-headed arrow or a one arrow. Sorry, that would be good for lines. So let's click on this line instead of the triangle. Let's click on the stroke here and make it be an arrowhead. Make that kind of arrow. Or I'm going to click on this line and I'm going to make it that kind of arrow. Okay. That's possible. I can also make this be a dashed line instead of a straight line. Right? So now that stroke is in the shape of a dashed line, which is already creating different shapes. Or this one here can be a dashed line, but right now it's a 12-point dashed line. What if I make it have a 12-point dash, 5-point gap, 12-point dash, 5-point gap, 12-point dash, 5-point gap. And when I look away, see how it's not just an even one? You can play around with this kind of stuff. None of this so that's an uneven kind of line. I'm going to click on this last line and I'm going to make an even more uneven here. I'm going to make it a dashed line, but that is not even. So I'm going to have 12, I'm going to have something really big, like 17 points long, 5 points short. 3 points short, back to 5 points short. No, this is going to be 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. and then back to 17, and then so on and so forth again. Maybe the last one's going to be 28. So basically I gave it different shapes, right? So when I click away, there you go. That's the kind of line I'm making. It's got some different gaps and stuff. So you can get creative with those dots. Any questions there, or is the dots one too many?
All good.
When I stop hearing questions at this time of night, I think I've overwhelmed you. I don't think it's because you're fervently doing what you're doing. Maybe it is, but maybe it's not. And then just the last thing I'll show you here for lines is that you can choose what kind of end cap you have. So this line here has square end caps, but you could decide that you wanted to have a little rounded end caps. Okay. So that would make a different kind of end cap. All right, so here's my request. At the end of the day, I want you guys to send me not the whole file, but a screenshot of the file. So you're like, oh, I don't know how to do a screenshot. Okay, if you do know how to screenshot, you're fine. PC people have a harder time. Mac people screenshots are easy, but PC people screenshots are not that easy. So at the very least, I just need to say what you're doing. Pick up your phone and take a little photo of your screen and just email me that photo. I just need to see what you're doing. That's all. Doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be great. I just want to see an assortment, a variety of stuff that's happening to know that you're following along. I won't remember that one, Johnny. I know that you're showing it to me. Here's the thing. As I told you, this class is like graded, and I'm not going to give you grades right now. I'm just going to put these things in a place where you send them to me. And then when I go grade, I'm going to kind of see whether you've been in general sending me the stuff and doing the work of the class. It's not for me to say it's an A or a B or a C or a D. It's like, are you doing the work of the class? If you're doing none of the work, because I never see any of your work, and then you stop showing up, I can't give you a pass. But if you're showing up and you're not doing the work, I can't officially give you a certificate either, because I don't know if you're just watching TV while you're connected, right? So I just need to see now and then some of the work. So a quick screenshot, a clean photo of this is good enough for me to know that you did the work today. And I'll store it in a folder. And then I'll check and see if I have some of your work. Again, if you want me to do some critique of your work or help you out, specifically email me and ask me about something like that. But more for me, it's to be able to keep track to that you have participated in the class, done the work of the class, so that if I give you a pass, it's truly someone who's done the work of the class. Does that make sense? So it's a very loosey-goosey. It's not a grading kind of assignment. We can't do that in non-credit, but it's more like, oh, you're trying, you're doing the work. And then if I see that there's no comprehension, that also triggers me to know to explain the things to you better or differently, or to give you some more practice or more explanation. So, but for the most part, if you have something that resembles a bit of a mess of different shapes, that means you did the work today. Because today all we did was a mess of shapes, right? Now, the day that I want you to do a robot, you might make a better robot and someone else might make a worse robot. But as long as you have an idea of how to make the shapes and put them together into groups that you haven't learned yet, and to get 2 eyes or 10 eyes and 3 antennas or 1 antenna, hey, it's a robot. But if I get a mess of shapes next week when we do the robot, then I think that you probably didn't learn the next lesson. You know what I mean? So today a mess of shape is all I need to get from you. You have my email.
Deanna, I have a question.
Email it to me. Yeah.
I forget, how do you get it so you can see your whole artboard on the screen?
Yeah, thanks. So if you do Control+, you're out of the way. Control-, you go down, or Control-0, your whole artboard pops in.
Oh,
So
Control-0, that's what I forgot.
Control-0, I forgot to, didn't do this for this class. I did it this morning.
I
Control-,
just couldn't remember.
or
Yeah.
Command minus for those of you on a Mac, or Control plus. So basically you hold down the control the whole time and you tap, 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 or the Control 0 brings you straight to filling the screen with your shape. And that's good. Thank you for the screenshot, just to have the whole
Okay, thank
artboard.
you.
Now, Mac people, at this point, I think it's just you and I, Catherine. For the screenshot, you need to take a Mac screenshot. Oh, and two. This is an actual Mac screenshot, Justine too. So just as a reminder, I'll replay how to do a screenshot for Mac people. If you put one finger on the Command key, one on the Shift key, so like thumb and pinky on the Shift and the Command key, then you move up and make the next finger press the 4. So then you get this little shape. So that's 3 down. I have Command, Shift, and 4 pulled down. And then on my mouse, I get this little shape, and now I can just click and drag it along this way and let go. And that puts a little screenshot of this onto my desktop, which I can then email to me. So that's relatively simple for Mac people. For PC people, screenshots are a little bit more fuzzy. So let me show you how you would do it on a PC. By the way, for VDI, you still can do a Mac screenshot because it's just a photo of your screen on the Mac. So this is true PC people. Go down to your search bar here and type
Snipping tool.
snipping. Thank you. Snipping tool. You write the word snip. Okay. And there it is. You can hit the return key or click on it. And that gives you the snipping tool. All right. So you click on the word. It doesn't matter that's in the way of your stuff. You just click new. And everything goes gray. And then you just move your mouse and it discovers that it's the same thing as I had just showed. You just kind of click and drag like that. Around, see how the thing disappears? And when you let go, you end up with a little screenshot, but this time it's a file that you need to save. It's like 3 more steps than on the Mac. So now you have a little file that you need to say file save, and you save it as whatever. You can put the date, you can call it, you know, today's class, today's Illustrator class, or you can put the date, what's today, May 21st, Illustrator class work, or put Anne's Illustrator work, Pilar's work. I mean, the file will have the dates, so I don't care about the date so much. Just put your name, maybe Pilar or something like that. Okay. Oh, wait,
So-
Pilar.
Did you want it sent as an attachment or just an image in the email?
And an image in the email is an attachment. So yeah, whichever
Because
way
you
it
could
gets.
also copy and paste without actually saving it.
When you do that, it arrives as a,
Yeah, on the
as a
snipping
little,
tool.
yeah, that's fine. That's good enough. You can copy and paste. You can attach. You can, whichever way you want. As I said, take a photograph and then just say send and click my pipeline email. That'll work too. Just show me that you've been doing some stuff today. All right. Do you want to say, and then you say, okay. So now that's just for the snip, but for now, what we need to do is save this file. If you have tried to save it yet, you might have noticed that you can't. You probably haven't tried to save it, but if you have, you can't save it. So let me go ahead and go to File, Save. And if you try to save, it'll say, I can't save here, yada, yada. You don't have permission, something like that. It'll say to you, right? So, because you're trying to save into the shared file that and it's not going to be available. So you need to say save as. Oh, this one is a new one, so it might let you save. It's when you give it a name. So let's call this one practice shapes. Right, so we're just beginning with shapes and colors and stuff like that. And what you can't do is you can't save it in the shared folder, because the shared folder is my folder and it's locked and sealed so that no one can save stuff in it, because I don't want anyone altering the original pieces. So you have to go to the Google Drive if you're on VDI. If you're at home, put it wherever you want. But if you're on VDI, you have to go to Google Drive, and then you have to go to My Drive. My Drive. So double click on My Drive. And now I have to clean up. This is class files from other time. And now say new folder. And make yourself a new folder called Illustrator class files. And I'm going to call this one Summer 1 because I know to distinguish it from my other classes. So I'll say open, and then we're going to save. I'm going to save inside of that folder. Okay. So now it asks you Illustrator options. We'll just say yes to everything that it says here. We'll say okay. And there we go. We have our practice shape saved in your own drive. So if it's not letting you save, it's because you're still in the shared drives. You need to be in My Drive. That is in, for the VDI people, this is in the pipeline My Drive now. Okay. And for people at home, save it wherever you want in your own computer. Okay. And now we're going to close this up. And this shape, if you guys want some work during the week and you want to practice working on it, we will work on it in class. So maybe you don't necessarily need to complete this because I'll be teaching you some grouping and some other stuff that's going to make it easier so that you have to do in some compound practice. So there's some stuff I need to teach you around this to make it just like that. But you might want to consider that out of these 3 shapes, so all you need to know is how to make is this shape, which you know is a square with a little into a triangle. I taught you how to make a circle with a thin triangle and some rectangles. You know how to make all these shapes. In the end, you get that thing. So here's my goal, not for you to do the robot because we're going to work on this in class, but consider with what other of the basic shapes we played today, you can make some other shapes. So you don't have to do this. This is a suggestion for you to learn more. Consider using a combination of basic shapes and make something and send it to me also, or show it to me in next class. Again, I can't request that you do it, but this is when I get little teddy bears and, you know, stars, and Pilar always makes the cutest little creatures. Just with basic shapes. I'm not expecting you to know more yet. I mean, if you know more yet, do more. But just look how little it takes to be able to put some pretty cool stuff together. Okay. All right, so let's close this one out right now without actually modifying it, and quit Illustrator. If you are a Mac person, Illustrator and Bridge and stuff like that on the PC closes on the opposite side, not on the wrong side, on the right side. You can see my heart. And if you are a Mac, if you're on a Mac, then just go quit your programs. But this is the important thing for all of you guys is to let's disconnect from the Google Drive. Okay, that way next time you connect, you'll just open up with that sign in to Google email and it's much easier. So let's go down to the bottom little triangle where we pulled up the Google Drive to start with. Click on the little Google Drive icon. And then you get to the gears. Don't quit. Just go to preferences and disconnect account. Sign out. Yeah, just sign out. Okay. And then that's a good place to be because this is how you close it up. And next week, you just sign in and you're ready to go. Or next day that you decide to work, maybe on the weekend, you're going to do some Illustrator work or something like that. You just sign in again and you're ready to go. Okay. If the last step that you can do is to sign out of the VMware VMview, go to this little tab right here, click on that tab, and then go up to the top where it says Horizon and just click on the last icon and log out. Okay, so this is that little tab that kind of sticks out here on the side of your screen. Pull it open and you go up to the top and log out. Okay, are you sure you want to log out? Yep, I'm done. You log out and you end up here again. All right, so that's our visit, our trip in and out of VDI. It is easier for people who don't have VDI to just open and close their programs, but the first day today was the most complicated because of all of the access issues, but that's it. After this, you'll notice that it just takes 2 seconds. VDI, the only thing that takes long is when you click on student desktop, you wait. Once it's up, you open the programs and you start working. That's it. It's not complicated and it works well. There was no lag, right, Catherine? You know, and you're saying it was slow. There's not necessarily any
Yeah,
lag once
it
you're
was
in the
fine.
program. It's just
Mm-hmm.
getting in or getting out. It depends on how much you want or need the applications. If you want to get to them, but this works fine. Where it begins a bit more complicated is if you want to start working on files that you own, because then you have to upload them into the pipeline drive so that they're available to you inside of VDI, because you can't access them from VDI on your computer. You need to have you, but it's just put them up in your Google pipeline drive from school and open them up from inside of VDI. All right, guys. Okay, so it's Friday, 5:20. I only went over by 5 minutes, so yay. Given that we had some, in the end, some technical issues there, I think we did pretty well. Practice, practice, practice how to do the part that you had a hard time with this week so that by next week, everyone is an absolute pro at moving in and out of VDI, and everyone has the files now if they need the files. And that's all it takes. From now on, we'll just zoom forward with learning how to make cool things in Illustrator. Okay. If you have just, this is just to Catherine, everyone else knows because you're in a class or another. If you still have extra time and want to learn a bit more beyond Illustrator, the digital design techniques class, if you're interested, I mean, I think
I
it's
actually
a couple-
looked over, and then I think I might take it for summer too.
Okay, so that's fine.
Yeah.
So that'll be another teacher.
Okay,
And it's
okay.
in the morning, so depending, just so you know, in
Okay.
case you have scheduled to teach to, if your schedule is at work or something like that, but if you're not working, then yeah, it's in the morning, because make sure it doesn't coincide with other classes. The one I'm teaching right now is in, what's the schedule, you guys? It's
Tuesday, Thursday,
it's
5:30.
Tuesdays, Thursday, 5:30 to 8:15. So it's in the
Okay.
evening. So if you prefer the evening, take it today. If you prefer the morning, take it in summer one. Okay.
Okay.
So just letting you know.
Thank you.
Everyone else here either is in it or knows about it. And, but I knew you didn't know, so. And Photoshop is in the morning, so it makes for a long Friday if you take Photoshop, because it's all Friday morning and then all Friday afternoon. Someone else here needed to know how to handle their Mac. Oh no, that was the Photoshop person that I said you need to take the Mac classes, but that's in Photoshop. So there you go, because my Mac classes are running right now too, and you seem to handle your Mac well. But if you need, but there is a Photoshop person who didn't. But yeah.
Deanna?
Okay.
Hey, Deanna.
Yay. Hi.
Hi.
Yes, Justine.
Oh, hi, it's Justine. Yeah. I was wondering, how are you doing with your with the enrollment minimum? Are we at the minimum with this class?
Well, I was paying an attention to the participation here, and basically we should have 17 students, and I had a max of 11 people here today. I do know 2 people who said they're going to be coming that couldn't make it. And of course we had Bonnie, who had to leave because of the birthday party, and Joel was here. But so at the top we had 11. If the other 2 people come, we have 13. It's pushing it. They won't cancel it. I think we're having such a hard time that they're going to allow people to come and go. But I think that the best thing would be that if you're finding that Friday nights is too much to stay for the whole thing and you still want to learn it, is to consider maybe hanging out for an hour or 2, and then you have all week to watch the rest of the recordings. But if it's all too much, then yeah, you're not going to stay if you can't stay. Don't worry. But I know that Friday afternoon it's a lot.
Curious where you were with that with the enrollment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fact that they let it start means that
Yeah.
they're gonna let it run, but
Okay,
they would consider next time not letting it run if this happens
Yeah.
again, kind of thing.
I just, yeah, to be honest, it's just for my energy levels and my schedule lately. I realize this is just, it's too much for me.
Yeah,
But
no, I
it's-
can
I'm
tell
sad
you're
'cause
flagging.
I like hanging out in your classes. I like, anyway,
It's a late class and
Yeah.
so if you want to try again, just in showing up half of it, as long as you think you can do the recordings, I'm okay with that. I can't let you just do a little bit and not do the recordings because then
No,
you'll never
no,
know where we're at.
yeah,
But
no,
if
for
you-
me personally, I wouldn't be able to keep up with the recordings. I mean, like I said, the whole
Yeah.
thing is just, I'm realizing it's too much for what's going on in my life right now. So.
That's fine. I
yeah,
know that you're
it's-
building your business. I know you have a lot going on. So
Yeah. So anyway,
Uh-huh.
thank you for understanding.
no, that's totally fine. Thank you. We can talk a little bit more with anyone else, but other than that, the class is officially over. If anyone else has questions, please stay around. But other than that, you're welcome to sign out and have an awesome weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gianna. You too.
Bye, guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
Everybody have a
Actually,
great-
I have a question.
Justine, can you hang out for just a second? I have something I
Yeah.
want to say.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
So
Sure.
Jenny, you said you have a question?
Yeah, so sorry, I missed the part where you said, once we complete the class successfully and everything, we get a certificate, or do you have to complete a certain amount of classes to get a certificate?
It's it's 4 classes. It's
Okay.
the digital design techniques, Illustrator, and no, sorry, it's Photoshop. It's the 2 Photoshops, Photoshop and Photoshop for digital photographers and digital design techniques are the 3 classes. Plus, you have a choice of either Illustrator or Dreamweaver.
Okay.
Is the
And you'll be
4th one.
teaching those in the fall?
I'm teaching them all now. Bruce Burkhardt is teaching digital design techniques. No, he's teaching Photoshop for digital photographers. And in the fall, probably will be the same way, although Dreamweaver is not going to happen. So it's going to have to be design techniques, Illustrator, and the 2 Photoshops to complete the certificate. I
Okay.
don't think they're going to put Dreamweaver up. So those are going to be your 4 choices.
Okay. All right. I just
All
trying
right.
to figure it out. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye, Jenny.
Bye. Good weekend.
You too. Oh, I forgot I was still sharing. When I talk to people, I like to stop sharing my screen and I forgot that. So let me stop recording. So